Good evening, everyone. The City of Grand Haven, Michigan regular City Council meeting of January 3rd, 2023 is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Cummins,
Here.
McNally.
Here. Would everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first order of business is I would entertain a motion to approve the consent and regular agendas.
So move.
Is there support?
Second?
Motion by McLaughlin, second by Lowe. Is there discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have C removed from the consent agenda and put that on for discussion.
I think that's fine with me. Everybody all right with that? Okay, so,
I have an item as well, Mayor.
you got one?
Yep.
What do you got?
Wonder if we can move item number 8A, the Human Relations Commission and findings and recommendations regarding alleged discrimination complaint, to new business, item B, behind the other item we just presented, and to also add to our agenda council member comments prior to our second call to the audience.
I'm good with the second call to the audience and council member comments. There's time to do that. The question is there a resolution that you want to bring with that, Ryan, or what's the purpose of making that new business?
Well, I think we're being given a report from our Human Relations Commission, and I think council should have some discussion or about whether or not we want to accept the report, concur with the recommendations, make any other action that we feel is appropriate on their report that they've submitted to us.
Okay, to change the agenda, it requires 4 votes. Is that accurate? To add something to the agenda
I
at
think
this
that's
point?
Can we
before
put
the
that on
meeting.
can we do that as a, like, in a work session too? Start out with, I think there's a long discussion on this besides just bringing this up right now and doing a vote on it. But I really think we should sit down and have a long discussion on it, myself personally.
Can
Fine
we
with
add
that
it,
too.
can we add it to a future meeting? I'd be absolutely open to that, but tonight, we've got somebody who, out of the kindness of his heart, has come in to facilitate a discussion. So I would,
I
I'm
do,
open-
I
I'm
do
open
agree
to
that
the
we need to
discussion.
discuss it, but I think we should spend some time on it instead of, we're stressed for time tonight as it is already for things we're
Yeah, and I'm
doing.
not proposing that we push it ahead of anything that we're here to do related to strategic planning, but if council prefers a separate work session to discuss it more in depth, I think that's appropriate, and I'd be happy to do that at a future meeting.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
good with
fine with that.
I think that'd be more
Everybody?
appropriate.
Agreed.
Okay, so the
you,
change to
Ryan.
tonight's agenda then would be to move item 6C under the consent agenda and add it as item, have we got new business? We don't have, I'm going to call it 6.5A. I don't know what else to call it, but we'll call it new business. Is that all right? Everybody good with that? Okay, on the agenda as amended, can I get a roll call? Or do we first,
Let's do there's a
Separate
lot on
vote?
this, so let's do a separate one.
okay. So we're voting at this point to amend the consent agenda. All right. Would you call the roll, please?
Do McLaughlin and Lowe still?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. And then I think we can go straight to approve the consent agenda as amended. Is that
We have
correct?
to approve both agendas, and then we'll go to consent
Okay.
agenda.
To approve both agendas as amended?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right. Maria, would you read the consent agenda, please? Actually, call the audience. Okay. This is the first call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their names and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We will take all callers tonight. Is there anyone who'd like to address council?
Right there, I'll take one. Sure. Good evening. I'm Todd Crum, 415 Sandpiper. As the director of the BLP board, I'm appalled by several city leaders' recent attempts to create distrust and discredit the BLP. Since taking office 3 years ago, there has always been a wide-ranging political dispute with differing opinions. However, nothing compares to the low depths of this past year. I question why you did not include the BLP position statement as an attachment item discussing Ms. Pell's allegations. Since the BLP is a department of the city, one would think that the city council would want to be completely transparent in this matter and get to the bottom of this. I would like to quote a few statements taken directly from the investigation by Varnum attorney Elizabeth Skaggs, who was appointed by MPIA, a group self-insured pool for municipal power companies, to defend and indemnify BLP board members of this issue. Quotes, "At the onset, it should be noted that the allegation in Ms. Pell's complaint are extremely narrow and do not even involve her. However, it is clear based on the video of that August 3rd meeting and the extensive history between Director Hendrick and the other board members and staff of the BLP that Director Hendrick was never treated differently because of her gender. This complaint is less about allegations of discrimination and more about a political debate." End of the quotes. I strongly encourage everyone to read the BLP position statement. It can also be found on the BLP website and the Facebook page. I was present during the August 3rd meeting, and I have differing views of the meeting than what I read in the HRC report. I agree that meeting got a little out of hand, but there was absolutely zero discrimination against Director Hendrick. In fact, since that incident, meetings have been relatively even-keeled as we work to move forward together for those we serve. The BLP provides an accessible service to over 14,800 customers, not just in Grand Haven, but also in Ferrysburg, in Spring Lake, Grand Haven, and Robinson Township. As elected officials, it is imperative that we should be working together. However, what I see from some of you is just the opposite. Look at the facts that surround you. The BLP has a great relationship with our community, including our neighboring municipalities and our customers. My hope is that in 2023, we stop this political fight and help each other for the future of our local utility and the communities we served. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Jim?
My name's Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I just want to read for the public email that was sent to the council and city administration. A good strategic plan is a key to thoughtful, sound city development. I'd like to commend the city council for undertaking this activity. When I look to a future 3 to 10 years away, I see 3 items the city should be addressing. 1, middle school land redevelopment. With the school district's announcement that they want to shut down the old, badly in need of renovation middle school, the city needs to have a strategy to redevelop the property. Redevelopment should include a mixed-use planned neighborhood. If 7th Street's closed and the parking lot reconnected to the school parcels, there would be about 16.5 acres available. This area is more than 3 times larger than that recently developed for Peerless Flats. It's large enough to have a diversity of housing types, park, and even a supermarket. We've heard a lot about affordable housing. Redevelopment is the chance to build some. Parking. The city needs a long-term vision for downtown parking. Many feel there is a lot of parking that goes unused by City Hall and the courthouse. Why not examine what could be done, such as an on-call automated circulated trolley? An automated vehicle could travel down Franklin, down Harbor, up Columbus, and back to the extended parking by the courthouse. It could stop at each block or 2, including spots the city wants to develop, such as Central Park Place. An automated loop would have all right turns, and the roads are all 25 miles an hour. And I said, let's get the parking optimized in the city strategy. Local energy strategy. Climate change is real and needs to be addressed by each local area. This includes Grand Haven. City strategy needs to include measures to reduce fossil fuel use and increase local renewable power production. Part of this effort needs to be residential, business, industry, and community solar. The city needs to have zoning updated to include mandatory energy improvements to reduce consumption and transition to greater use of electric, EVs, heat pumps, etc. The old Sims Co-Power site would be an excellent site for community solar with large subsidies possible through the federal IRA. The time to start is now, with implementation in the next 2 to 5 years. And I think everybody who's worked on projects knows that the pre-work done on a project is extraordinarily important, and the first 10% is what's going to set the success of a project. So I'd like to see the city really get started on looking at things instead of putting them off and maybe addressing them when they become critical. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Steve Miller, 1540 Penoyer Avenue, and I'm here again to address the issue of outside dining downtown. I just want to quick read a little article from August 4th, 2022 that said, an idea born out of helping businesses survive the COVID-19 pandemic is now a permanent fixture in downtown Northville, Michigan. After reviewing information and taking in more details, the City Council addresses street closures issue again, making the decision to keep the roads closed to cars, allowing pedestrians and diners to continue using the street. Supporters of the closure said they were helping attract and retain younger residents and visitors, something they said the city should continue to do. I submit that we need to roll out the welcome mat to families, Councilman Andrew Krenz said. And finally, after gathering more information, the council voted 4-1 to permanently continue with the closure of Main Street between Center and Hutton, and 3-2 to keep Center Street closed between Main Street and Dunlap, permanently closed, the entire street. The thing I want to leave you with is, do not be fooled by the cartel. We have a parking cartel in this city. I don't care how much they want to sugarcoat it. They want you to ignore the dozens, if not hundreds, of parking spaces downtown that go unused 95% of the time. We don't have the land or the money to waste on these financially wasteful, environmentally harmful, empty parking spaces. And I want the City Council to continue the summertime dining downtown. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Good afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. Oliver Champagne, 540 D Avenue. I first want to just echo basically what Jim and Steve just said. But I'm also here to speak on, I think it's still item 8A. I didn't switch that up, so in attachment B. If you ended up reading the Grand Haven Tribune today, I wrote something to the editor referring the findings from the HRC. The HRC, well, I got a packet here from Varnum, I guess, from the Board of Light and Power, which is it's quite a packet to read in a couple minutes here, but I think it was somewhat curious what was said earlier, because the HRC determined from their investigation that there's a pattern of highly concerning behaviors by not only members of the board, but also by administrative staff, and those behaviors to seem to undermine and silence a director who often holds a minority opinion on the board. So there's an argument if it's over gender, sure, but the way that that meeting was handled, no matter what it was over gender or what it was, it silenced a member and didn't even let her finish a discussion that was just beginning, which is sad, whatever you want to call it. It's a failure of government. So I know we can argue all about what discrimination happened or not, but the Board of Light and Power keeps coming here and saying that they want to work with you, but from my experience going to their meetings, they don't want to work with anyone except themselves. And I find it concerning that Chair Michael Westbrook celebrated these findings as a win because it wasn't discrimination or not enough evidence for. So, furthermore, if they had nothing to worry about with these, I just question why would they attempt to obstruct an investigation by stalling and deleting videos, the exact video of that meeting. And they said it was to clear up space, but the HRC also cleared it up that YouTube doesn't have a limit on how many YouTube videos you can put, and why would you delete the newest videos? The only reason, in my opinion, is to obstruct and hide something that you maybe don't want everyone to see. And honestly, with the BLP, for years, has been struggling with transparency, common decency, proper procedures involving the public. I hope the city and the Board of Light and Power can move forward with the HRC's recommendations of a qualified mediation firm and further training. They kind of seem that silly in here, I guess, but I don't think it is too silly. And I hope may we one day finally have a Board of Light and Power that represents the cities and its interests. It's quite frustrating. And Andrea Hendrick was overwhelmingly elected to her spot, so it's not like people in the city don't agree with her, but we can move on that. So thank you. Happy New Year to you guys, and be well.
Thanks, Oliver.
Hi, my name is Liam Rapley. I live on 17591 174th Avenue. And I'm here for two reasons. One of them is to back up my friend Oliver, who I think is saying a lot of really important stuff. And I'm really proud to call myself his friend because he shows up at these city council meetings and he really cares. And he represents people that are my age. And I realize that we don't show up here very often. The last time I was at a city council meeting was pertaining to the Board of Light and Power again, regarding the power plant on Harbor Island. And a few of us long-haired hippies, stood up and spoke our mind, and we were chided by some members of the community about being these sort of paranoid youngsters, too concerned with climate change, and it'll all work out. It happened in the 70s and it wasn't real. But the people in front of me, I think the city council might look a little bit different, but you guys listened to us, and you took the time to postpone that vote and move forward in a way that I agreed with, and the people of Grand Haven agreed with, and that is really important to me. That I want to thank you for. To be able to listen to the members of the community and actually make decisions based on your constituents gives me a little bit of hope in this system. And I know, again, I sound like this paranoid young kid who has no faith. I don't want that to be me. And in many ways, I'm trying to avoid that by coming here tonight. So I just want to ask that you keep in mind that me and my friends were on winter break and we took time to come here because we're really concerned about what's happening with the Board of Light and Power. And I stand behind Andrea Hendrick and the motions that are going on there. I thank you all for listening to me, and I hope you proceed similarly to the way you did the last time I showed up, which is to hear us out and act with us in mind. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.
Good evening. Mike Westbrook, 423 Lafayette Avenue. I'm also the chair of the Board of Light and Power. I come to you this evening to share insight regarding tonight's agenda item under correspondence and board meeting minutes, which I guess we've changed now to not talk about tonight, regarding Elizabeth Pell's complaint. I'd like to note for the record that on December 16, 2022, I sent each of you by email BLP's position statement, which was prepared by Elizabeth Skagg, who is joining us here tonight. She is the Varnum attorney who was appointed by MPIA to defend and indemnify the BLP board members and executive staff regarding this complaint. So she's here tonight, and I don't think you're going to talk about anything tonight. You're going to push it to a working session. Is that right?
I think, Mike, that it was only on the agenda as correspondence this evening. It wasn't set as an agenda item, and so there wasn't any action intended to be taken on it until Ryan suggested. But I think we will, at a future meeting, discuss the report and potential steps we want to take from it.
Okay. Well, the mission statement was sent to you on the 16th of December. It was reviewed by the HRC on December 15th. In my email, to fully support transparency with the public, like our friend Oliver Champagne's talking about here, I asked to have the position statement included in your board packets for tonight's, when it ended up on an agenda. I didn't see it anywhere in the board packet. All I saw was the HRC statement. I'm disheartened to see that this did not happen, so I'm submitting it tonight for the record to make sure it gets received into the city.
I think, Mike, maybe the better thing to do would be put it in as correspondence on the next meeting. And I say that only because you certainly can submit it, but it won't get published with, the packet was published Thursday, so it might be better, your choice, to request that it be submitted with the next round of, as correspondence to council.
That's excellent. I have a copy here tonight. I'll give to Maria, and if we can put it in the packet for the working session you have planned, that'd be fantastic.
Maria, have you
Going
got-
in the HRC minutes from the last meeting.
So we'll get it anyway, but it can be set out. If we're going to do a work session on this anyway, it's certainly appropriate that the BLP's position statement be included.
Thank you, Mayor. Elizabeth Pell's allegations have been investigated by the HRC and reviewed by multiple attorneys, including the city's own attorney, Ron Bulci. The HRC, City Attorney Bulci, and others have all come to an agreement that discrimination against Director Hendrick on the August 3rd BLP meeting based on her gender cannot be proven. And while I hear tonight that maybe it's discrimination, maybe it's not, people who are accused of discrimination like to be defended and have their voice heard. It's obvious to all of us in the room that some members of City Council have political motives against the BLP and our staff. So keeping with full transparency, should be also noted for public record that Mrs. Pell, who filed the complaint, shares the same residence with in Grand Haven as Councilman Kevin McLaughlin. McLaughlin has been an outspoken opponent against the BLP, who's gone as far as to tell me F the BLP at a meeting in November. As chair of the BLP, I know personalities and political conflicts are going to happen, as we previously witnessed. However, this issue is simply a political dispute masked by a false accusation of discrimination. The issue at hand occurred at the BLP meeting 4 months ago when the chair at the time suffered from a profound hearing disability. The previous chair has resigned from the BLP shortly after due to health reasons, and he no longer plays any role on the board. If we are concerned with any form of discrimination, we all need to look at all of the actions of all individuals involved with the BLP, including Director Hendrick's own highly concerning behavior. The BLP's position statement in record provides concrete examples where Director Hendrick made repeated personal attacks on BLP board members and staff. She mocked their age, their gender, their race, and disability status of all other board members and staff. And when Director Hendrick was asked to make a very reasonable accommodation for a board member with a hearing disability, she did not comply and simply stated, "My disability is not being able to be seen on camera." In conclusion, the BLP takes these allegations very seriously, along with the HRC suggestions to improve relations among all at the BLP. We are committed to reviewing the HRC recommendations as a board and planning on further training for our full board, including implicit bias training, OMA, and additional board governance training. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Skaggs. I'm a partner with Varnum. I am a attorney who was retained by the Michigan Professional Insurance Authority to represent the BLP, certain members of the BLP, and the BLP staff in response to the complaint that was filed with the HRC by Elizabeth Pell. I'm simply here if you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to ask me. You should all have a copy of the report that we submitted to the HRC last December. If you have any questions or concerns about anything in that report, I would be happy to field them today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. I need a motion to, Maria, will you please read the consent agenda at this point?
Item A, approve the bills memo in the amount of $1,229,762.78. B, approve a 1-year seasonal slip rental agreement with Jean and Caroline Mers, slip 28, with a term from May 10, 2023 to October 11, 2023, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
So move.
Second?
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion by McLaughlin to approve the consent agenda as amended and a second by Lowe. Is there any discussion? Could you please call the roll, Maria?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on then to new business item, I guess it's 6.5. A. Would you read that for us, please, Maria?
Approve a 1-year license agreement to operate a charter fishing business from Grand Haven Municipal Marina with Hunter Phelps and Jason Phelps, with a term from April 1, 2023 to October 31, 2023, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
Okay. Can I get a motion to that effect? For discussion?
So move. Second.
Okay, so motion by McLaughlin, second by Cummins. Councilmember Fritz,
Yes.
can you tell us what's going on?
Well, if you notice, I asked a question about the difference in the price. I mean, one bid was $1,200 more than the one we're accepting right now, and the marina itself is not making any money. And if what's the deal? Why are we taking such a low bid when we have a chance to make a profit? I mean, at least
Can
come
I-
in that way,
Yep.
so.
Can I ask Ashley a question? Ashley, did anybody else besides me get the information you gave me?
The RFP was included in previous correspondences, but I can't speak for certain if everyone
Okay.
looked at the selection qualifications.
I asked the same questions this morning in my meeting with Ashley, Mike, and I got some augmenting information, which I can read out loud if that would be useful, or what would you think we should do, Mike?
Well, I just want to know, why are we accepting one, and we're trying to run a business, some like down here, and we're trying to make it profitable, and if we're going to be $1,200 is a lot of money, and it's a big bid, but it's quite a bit of difference.
Char, can you explain to us what's going on?
Sure,
Okay, identify yourself first.
you bet. Char Sese, Community Affairs Manager for the City of Grand Haven. In the RFP that we send out, the selection criteria is based on the best qualified with a variety of different things that we look at. So desired qualifications, including experience in charter fishing and holding the proper licenses and vessel documentation. So in the two applications that we received, the application response was vastly different between the two applications. And I look at the RFP response similarly to when somebody perhaps sends their resume in for a job. I'm looking for that individual to tell me everything about them and what they're looking at doing in the Chinook Pier fishing industry for the city of Grand Haven. And in my opinion, Hunter did a different job other than the other applicant. So when you look at the packet as a whole, yes, there was a great difference in the variation of the pricing that was submitted. You have one charter captain that is operating in another facility, had submitted a bid for a space last year when there was one available and didn't get selected, and sent in a great response as far as references, Google reviews. All of those things impact the environment of the Chinook Pier charter business for everyone down there. So that was my justification and the reasoning behind the selection of Hunter Phelps for the slip. If we had two slips, they would both have been recommended because they were both recommended by the Charter Association president, that they'd be a great fit down there. And those are the bases of my recommendation.
These are the things that the request for proposal had in it. It said they wanted names and qualifications of the persons, captain, the charter captain and boat owner, general information about your firm's capabilities and experience, list similar operations managed by the applicant or firm, provide copy of your charter license, DNR, and Coast Guard inspections and liability insurance, describe the general business approach to operating the charter fishing operation, list 3 references from individuals familiar with the charter fishing industry, 2 photographs and a cashier's check. From what I saw, and it might not be complete, but from what I saw in the packet before us, one applicant did that and one applicant did not. The applicant who did not do that offered more money, but the applicant who actually followed the directions and met the requirements of the proposal it offered less money. So it is, I think, a question of how we treat that philosophically, whether you want some flexibility in whether you want, I mean, I look at it sort of like when we had Chinook Pier shops. If someone came and said, I'll pay this much and I'm going to have this type of business, and another person came and said, I'll pay this much, but I'll have a different kind of business, and we were trying to make a better fit for Chinook Pier, we may well have said, this is a better fit, even though we won't make as much money on it. It's a question to me of how you look at the contracting process.
Your Honor?
Yep.
I agree. When I read the materials, I agree with Mayor McNally and with your recommendation, Shar. One applicant was incomplete, did not have the DNR inspections, and as you said, the person that, individual that you selected, even though they bid something less, they lost out last year. They tried for this and there wasn't one available, and they were not selected. So I believe I support your recommendation, and which is why I was willing to let this go through the consent agenda.
And let me be clear, in bids past, there have been applicants who did not have all of the DNR qualifications because they just purchased their boat. Many of the inspections don't take place until, springtime. And so in the past, there have been those situations where they didn't have all the qualifications. So just to make sure that that's clear.
So really what you're saying is he met the qualifications with his submission, or he did not?
Are you talking about the higher bidder or the lower bidder?
The higher bidder, sorry.
The higher bidder, yes, because he purchased his boat,
Yep.
But it's not ready to go until the inspections are done and he passes. So if you're looking at two two different businesses. One is ready to go, already the inspections are in place. The other is not.
Okay, does that raise questions for anyone?
And then he won't be able to have that done until spring anyways, right?
Right, I think that's likely right, Mike.
But what happens if he doesn't pass the inspections? Then he can't operate the business.
That's
And
correct.
therefore, he wouldn't be able to lease the,
Right, because they
Base.
have to have all of those inspections
Yep.
when their license agreement is signed.
In the future, in the
best
packet we
qualified
got, we didn't get
selection.
all the information. I had to request it to make sure that everybody else got it. Make sure that you put both bids or all the bids in there so we know exactly what we're looking at, and not just a synopsis of just one. I'd like to see the whole complete thing. I had to ask for that in the meantime to get up to us. So please, if you could do that, it would be really more helpful for us instead of having to hear things from all over. We get just everything in order.
Can you just explain to me how the price is determined? I mean, it's just a bid?
It is just a bid for the first year.
So I know we went through it with the marina, and, you know, at one time we were recommended, I don't know,
A lower
C, and
scale.
all of a sudden
Yep.
we went to column J.
Right,
What is, you know, how high can we go? Would DNR say we could charge $10,000?
For the commercial,
Yeah.
for the charter.
no, they would
slip.
not say that.
Okay, so.
Is there a
What
limit?
was the parameters? I mean, somebody bid, I'm just trying to understand.
Sure. Sure. I mean, we have run this bidding process this way ever since I've been here.
That answer.
So that's just been following the
But
form and
can
function.
city council set a rate?
I, over and above what the DNR proposes, that would be something I would have to consult the DNR with.
The DNR says that the highest we can charge is what the high bidder presented to us?
They present a commercial rate every year, a transient rate every year.
Right.
And those are the rates we follow after the first year. So, for example, in this situation, if we move forward with either one of these candidates, they pay that first amount the first year only.
To get in.
To get in.
Then they pay
And
the
then they
DNR.
go
They pay
down
less
to the contracted price, which at this point in time is $5,000 a season. And that is up for, 2023 is the end of the last 5-year contract, and we'll be renegotiating a new contract with the charter captains.
So DNR will set that rate above the 5,000?
Likely.
For the first year bid, no. They set it for the going rate
But
after that.
The DNR doesn't set anything for the first year bid?
They have not at this point.
Interesting.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Karen, did that raise something for you?
so what we're talking about is just for the first year bid, it's $1,000, they're paying $1,000 or $1,200 more, is that correct? And then they go to the same rate that all the other ones pay, 5,000 or whatever it's set at by.
I get Councilmember Fritz's position, because I had the same position this morning. This would have been useful to, it helped me evaluate it, because from my perspective, usually these, in government contracting, you set minimum requirements. No one, if they don't meet the minimum requirements, their bid isn't considered. But if they meet the minimum requirements, money talks. I mean, that's usually how things go. So I could look at the guidance that was in this RFP and say, I could say he didn't meet the minimum requirements, but you're now telling us, because he didn't have his DNR certificate, but I don't think the DNR certificate, it's more about your knowledge of fish and game laws than it is about the condition of your boat or anything that's likely to get, you could fail it.
But there's
It's a
some risk,
combination.
though. There's some risk associated with someone having that, even if we've passed, agreed to this in the past, an applicant who has incomplete and doesn't have all of their inspections and approvals, to approve them is a risk that we're taking because we're going forward with them without it. even if you say 99% of them pass,
Right.
or there's a way.
I agree there's a risk, but it sounds like it's a risk we've taken in the past.
Doesn't mean
It
it's
has-
right, though, that we were.
But I would say you have to look at it in totality, right? So if you're comparing, and I'm not going to be able to reflect back on all of the bids that we've done since I've started this without going back to the documentation. But perhaps in some situations, you've had 2 applicants who didn't have all of the DNR inspections because they just bought their boats. Okay, so then it's a
There was
more
nothing
similar
differentiating
comparison.
them then.
Okay. Mike, have you got anything more?
No, I just wanted to know why. Because if you look in the packet, you didn't see any of this information in there.
And Mike, I've never included that before, so that,
It would be nice to have that. so
absolutely, that can be done going forward.
If we see the bid, we know these reasons why you're picking the one you are.
Sure.
It really helps us out a whole lot more. We can see it.
You bet.
Okay. Any further? Would you please call the roll, Maria?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right, guys, bear with me a second. There it is. All right, we're going to move into a strategic planning session facilitated by Al Vanderberg, who's been kind enough to join us this evening. And Ashley, I'm going to let you and Al tell us what we're going to do. Are we moving down?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay.
We move down.
Yep.
Do you have certain places you want us to sit?
Not necessarily, if you just want to have a seat up front to make it a little more close and comfortable. Al Vanderberg was actually our Ottawa County Administrator for over 18 years. 18 years. Most recently, he has been the Kent County Administrator. Very well versed in strategic planning sessions. I think he relayed to me he's done it for over 80 different organizations at the state, local, and nonprofit levels. He has been kind enough to offer his services to assist us in our strategic planning for this January, kicking off 2023.
All right, thank you, Ashley. And I have with me Jesse Harris, who is a management analyst at Kent County and also served as an intern at Ottawa County as well. Perhaps most importantly, I'm actually a 1980 Grand Haven High School grad, and my dad was a teacher for 40 years.
Excuse me, Al?
At the high school.
Would
Yeah.
you need to have you in front of the microphone, either at the podium or seated in one of these positions?
Oh,
He's the.
okay.
Will that work for you, or do you want to?
Probably move the podium. All right, why don't I do that? Yeah, because at some point, yeah, no, this will work. This will work. Let's try this. And then Jesse, when we get to the right point, I'll have her come over here, and there's a mic here, and she's going to kind of help keep track of what we do in writing. So I'm told that as long as I get us out of here by 2, 3 in the morning, we're good. So I will do the full program tonight. I'm kidding, of course. But what I like to do is start out with just an icebreaker, and then a SWOT, and then what I inelegantly call a brain dump, and then we rank. And so what we do is we get from to a point where you have prioritized what you want to take on over the next year. And so I think we can make it through this with the timeline as I understand that we have. So with that, why don't we start, and you'll see how it builds, how the different pieces build on each other, I think, as we go. So why don't we start, I'm gonna get back here. I'm out, see, I just have a hard time containing myself to a spot. So anyway, oh, is this better? How about?
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
Have you read what we did last year?
I have not.
Okay.
Because that's where I personally want to know where we're at, just from what we had last year before we move forward for next year, for the next following year. We want to know where we're at before we start doing anything. Have we done that before? The progress of what we've done? And then to see what we didn't do and what we need to do?
Yeah, I apologize. I sent it over Al, but I don't know, must not have gotten.
See, I think the important thing is for you to, I tend to facilitate, and I don't really tell you what you should do. And so I think probably I did see that.
I think
But I think I'm not sure it helps if I did or didn't, simply because I'm counting on you as the elected folks and any other appointed folks in the room to help create a list of things for you to rank of things that need to be done. And so.
But the SWOT analysis was done. I mean, we spent a lot of time on that.
I just have a question. One of the things that maybe I should just
I
throw out
you're good.
as an adjustment, we did come up with some draft strategic priority areas. It would be, I don't know if that would be helpful. There were 7 areas of priorities that, but I too wanted to say, hey, what progress did we make in any of those areas? Just thinking as a, I kind of done it in my head a little bit, but I think part of this was trying to be more intentional about where we're going and the vision for the future that we have, so that all of our departments and our commissions could also line up to those strategic priority areas, I would call them, rather than detailed goals and objectives. Does that make sense?
It does. And so as part of this process, what we would do is, after you've done the brain dump, we'll take a break and we'll organize all those ideas under your 7 priorities. And then what we do is walk you through a process of ranking the categories and then ranking the individual items within the categories. I'll tell you what, let's give it a go.
Let's give it a shot.
And then at the end of the night, I think probably out of the 70-plus groups, we've had maybe one unhappy group that was a school, a parochial school, and all that time. And so I think when we get there, you'll see the value. If not, you know what? You can just kick me out the door and I'll be gone. So, all right. So Ashley, did you want to do any kind of update on anything that was accomplished since the last time? And if it was accomplished, obviously it doesn't go on the list then, when we get to that point.
Ready for 2 a.m.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just pulling it back up. I think I could provide a more formal update in a different format, but our 7 categories we had a draft version of were excellence in government, environmental stewardship, community and neighborhood livability, economic development and affordability, recreation, culture and learning, health and safety for all, and engaged, informed, connected community. I think those are really the pillars of everything we've been doing for some time. as far as transparency and engaged and informed connected community, we've really increased our, I'm trying to recall when this date was drafted, but as far as that, we've done a lot in the realm of communication, continuing to be on radio, television, with our newsletter, our post-council graphics, continuing those efforts. Health and safety for all, really investing in our public safety, working with Trinity at with the merger at the hospital and what the ambulance services may look like, really delving into that. We continue to work on our environmental stewardship with the development of our Sustainability and Energy Commission. We are very active in that regard. Subcommittee of that commission is our Community Energy Plan, which you are beginning to hear more and more about. It's got some excellent media coverage as we gear up to work with our the agencies involved with that, including the Board of Light and Power. Again, community and neighborhood livability, continuing to look at our economic development and affordability with our community land trusts and our affordable housing developments and efforts, partnering with neighboring communities, seeing what interest may be out there to utilize the land trust for potential partnerships regionally.
I would just add under excellence in government, I think we, in improving the fiscal responsibility, we took steps to address the unfunded pension liability by closing it to new hires and, offering conversion option for employees. We have reduced some of the budget. We went to reducing budget and we looked at increasing our fee schedule. Under environmental stewardship, we also adopted a holistic approach by hiring HDR in order to sort of combine the coal cleanup with addressing all contaminants on Harbor Island. And I guess the only other thing as I was reflecting on what we accomplished, under community neighborhoods and livability, we also directed city staff to look at the issue of parking and parking opportunities for paid parking, both on the waterfront and option downtown in order to address some of the complaints about parking. That's what I had. It's just additional things under the key priority areas.
Absolutely. And maybe, Al, would it be worthwhile to use these 7 categories and go to the brain dump portion of the...
All right, we can do that. So for this moment, we're going to forget that there's 7 categories and just focus on what are the actions.
Mike.
All right, okay. Just cuff me here. All right. That's, okay. Okay, so for this portion then of the strategic planning, what we're going to do is ask each of you elected folks on the council and any staff who's present, anyone you would like to have input, to talk about what are the items that need to be accomplished. These are action. So if you do say something that isn't an action step, I'll rephrase it into something that's an action step. And then once we have however many ideas you've put on the boards, what we'll do is break and we'll reorganize those underneath your 7 categories. And then what we'll do is come back and only the elected folks, only the 5 elected council members will actually participate in the ranking exercise. We'll rank each category, so above the line, to find out where your preference is as far as importance of the categories. And then we'll have another ranking where we'll pretend that there are no categories. You'll just rank the individual items. And that way, when we put the matrices together, you'll see not only what items got the most points, but what had the most votes, and then also which of the 7 areas you consider to be more important and which individual items are. When I did this shortly after becoming the South Haven City Manager, it ended up being really important because the overall area that the City Council wanted addressed happened to be public safety in that case. But the largest single individual item that the City Council wanted addressed was sidewalks. And we never would have known that had we done either or of the rankings. Doing them both the way we did, we were able to get both a good sense of an area that needed the most focus and then individual items. That way, what Ashley can then put together a work plan for the next year with this input, and then we recommend that that she report out, probably using kind of a stop sign format where all of your objectives that are either accomplished or have due dates that haven't hit yet are highlighted in green, and then any that where a due date's been missed are in yellow, and there needs to be some reporting back on that. And then any that are red means the train's come off the tracks and for some reason it can't be done. And again, it requires more discussion between city manager and city council. And so I think that it's a good method to, A, communicate clearly between a council and the manager as far as what you expect to be done. Do it with some intentionality so that next year, with a quarterly reporting format, you all know how you did. You all know where you moved the dial. There won't be any question in a year when you sit down if you do something like this again, what you haven't accomplished, because you'll know throughout the year exactly where you're at. So that would kind of be, in a broad brush, where I would hope we get to by the time the lights go off and we all go home tonight. So,
But you're really talking about short-term goals. You're not talking about.
Well,
About a vision or.
Not talking about a vision or, going out, some of these things may take 3 or 5 years. I'm just,
Right,
but you're
but-
talking about short-term goals.
Not necessarily, no. So let's say frequently when we work with municipalities, a municipality might say, in your case, I know this is a little different because of how you're structured, but some might say we need a new water plant. Well, maybe that can't get done for 15 years, but there might be a feasibility that needs to be done, a citizen survey, financial planning. There's steps in almost every long-term objective that need to be accomplished. So I would say the idea behind the brain dump is put down everything you think the city needs to do. Don't worry about whether it's short-term, long-term. Don't worry about whether you think it's a quarter of the way done right now. What needs to be completed in Grand Haven? And we'll make a master list of that, and then we'll set it up by category so that you can then, what's that?
Infrastructure. I'll start it off.
Well, that's not very specific.
Streets, water, sewer, all the infrastructure we have underneath that we don't see, especially that we have to maintain what we're doing already, moving forward with it. We need to keep going forward and taking care of it, because since I've been on here, when I first got on here, it was just a piecemeal thing, and what happened was we got behind. We're like $40–50 million behind now.
So what you're saying is you need to complete an infrastructure plan.
Well, we have an infrastructure plan, but we need to keep going with it and make sure that we keep it going. We don't want to stop. One thing I want to make sure that's on the list, that we keep moving forward with it.
Is that but there's also a money problem that's prevented us from working on infrastructure. So I agree with you, because that has to be a priority, but we've been slowed because of our financial woes from that. So I'm not evaluating ideas, I'm just throwing in. We
Well,
have
right,
fiscal problems we have to address. Let's say we have, that are affecting our ability to do things like stay ahead of infrastructure.
Large projects, if we can do smaller projects, what we have, we get grants and stuff like moving forward, but we still have to keep moving forward with it, because if you slip back and not do it, what happens is those little projects that we want to get done get to be major projects and cost a whole lot more. We want to make sure that we can keep up on the game. We can't stop doing what we're doing. We just can't do the large projects that we can't afford at the time unless we get grants for them. But we still can do some small projects. The money is there for us to do small projects. We can still put that in the budget for smaller projects like the curing plastic piping and stuff on that workforce we've been doing.
Yeah.
Which extends the life anywhere from 50 to 75 years. We still need to be focused on that. We can't let that fall behind us.
I agree.
It's a major thing for the city if you want to keep that going, because that's what we supply our citizens with: water, the sewer, and drainage of all the streets and stuff. We have to maintain those things and let it slide, because over the years it's been neglected. It was neglected a little bit. It was only fixed it when it broke. We can't go back to that. Fix it when it's broke. We still have to keep moving forward, even if it's in baby steps. we did large projects for a long time, we spent a lot of money doing it, but if you don't have the capital now to do that so much to put along with it. So we have to do it, we have to step back and do the smaller projects, so they don't get be big projects.
So,
So how do we capture that, Al?
well, I think, so for you to sit here next year and have accomplished something, what do we need to do with infrastructure and finance? So does an evaluation of your financial condition with recommendations need to happen? Do you need to have projects recommended? I mean, if you have a plan, does the plan identify what projects have the most need and what they cost? And so is it really a matter of asking that projects be proposed in the next budget cycle? I mean, those would be action steps that would move the dial on this. So
We've got an infrastructure inventory ongoing with, that we are assessing condition, identifying, mapping out, and assessing condition and value of various infrastructure across the city.
do you have a 5-year capital plan that's been applied to the infrastructure? Okay, then the action step.
No, they're doing that first. Exactly
Right.
what the mayor said.
Yep.
They're identifying what we have in the ground.
And digitizing, right.
Digitizing it, and then
Doing an
we'll put a
asset.
budget to it.
Right.
You gotta find out what you have. I mean, I think
And
they-
understand
they-
well,
we
where
have-
to
we got schools
prioritize
that
the
still have-
assets.
That are still wood, to be very honest with you. We don't know. Some of the stuff is still wood.
Right.
So that was the recommendation that came out of the past.
Okay.
One of the past planning efforts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I think the action step would be to complete the infrastructure inventory. And then another one would be to put a financial plan along the infrastructure inventory. So take the inventory and then,
And some of that's done because there's a millage specifically for infrastructure.
The evergreen
that's just come
millage, yeah.
online, right? So those things are connected, and some of that is. But I think budgeting for it, prioritizing it, those are the things that still need really to be done. Identifying the greatest need. And matching it up with whatever local funds we have or matching funds from grants.
right. So that could be a separate session of this board to prioritize the spending on infrastructure. Okay. So that would be, an action step would be to hold a session of the board to prioritize infrastructure plan spending.
When we started with our,
Oh, I was just going to say, on the fiscal responsibility, because it kind of relates to the, ability, for trying to improve and maintain our fiscal responsibility, accountability and responsibility. We stopped the bleeding by, as I said, we closed the defined benefits pension program to new hires, and we offered this conversion, but that just stopped the bleeding. We have escalating costs for the next 50 years, as you know. So this is sort of the first part of, stopping the problem. We stopped the bleeding, but we have to find other sources of revenue because it will continue to erode the budget that we have for infrastructure and everything else unless we do that. So we have gone through we've looked at our fee schedule, we've adjusted fees for things, and we just approved a new fee schedule for the things that the services that the city provides, but we have to look at alternative sources of revenue in order to continue to fund that, the liabilities we've incurred, these past liabilities we've incurred, and some ongoing, but we've done the first step of a much longer term plan around fiscal accountability and responsibility, I guess. But there's more work to do, and I guess I'd like to see us prioritize that, because anything else that we do, if we don't fix our top line, bottom line problem, it doesn't matter. If we prioritize anything, there's no money to spend on it. So it's a high priority item, is finding new sources of revenue, finding how we are going to, in the future, set this city up for financial success for the next 30 years as we pay off that unfunded pension liability.
I think that's, I mean, fiscal accountability was kind of number one. When we started to talk about all this, we understood, you know, from a budget perspective, you know, how important additional revenue is. You know, we have a great police and fire department, top notch. 5 years down the road, we're going to be able to afford it. I don't know. You know, I mean, we want to keep this. I mean, this council is very much committed to a very well-run police and fire department. But you're going to run out of money. It's 48% of the budget. So, you know, I mean, it's something that we're going to have to tackle as a council. And maybe not under my term, maybe under somebody else's term, but it's going to happen. And so I think, you know, to try to find other sources of revenue is just, you know, very, very high on my list. If you want to brain dump, it's my first brain dump.
So I guess one of the questions I have is, have you done any financial forecasting that looks at all the factors, the higher costs of the pension until you get it to the point where it cliffs, and then also the infrastructure costs and some of the other things to know what you're aiming towards as far as additional revenue?
We can see the shortfall in years, you know, to come. If our financial director was here, obviously with the pension, that's sort of a moving target because it depends on, you know, on a lot of variable factors, as anyone who understands pensions. So we have to wait until that is recalculated to truly understand where we stand on that. We just know that we don't currently have the money's going to continue to go up, you know, until the last pensioner, you know, passes away, and then the city will be rid of that, you know, that thing hanging over. That's really sort of this, you know.
Actually, new as a city manager, as you know, but I think from my perspective, anyways, I think you're right. I mean, we surely need a 1 year, but we need a 3 and 5 year to really try to. And you know, we obviously have to estimate the pension. That is, we understand that. But there's other costs. We know we have 3% raises every single year for the next.
We know we want to invest in infrastructure. We want to be very proactive and intentional. The other thing I was going to throw in there is the other thing I felt we were all aggregating towards way back in March, in addition to the fiscal responsibility and the importance of infrastructure, was environmental stewardship. It seems like, and one of the things that we have felt from the people, from our community very strongly, is that they value, regardless of their politics, they value the stewardship that we have of our water and land here. And so that has become a priority, both in terms of, you know, finding ways to work holistically with the BLP together and in trying to figure out Harbor Island and, you know, and going forward. And that was one of the reasons we made some progress on that. We also created this Sustainability and Energy Citizen Commission that reports to the city manager to try to get people who know a lot more about that than us working on how do we move forward with a very specific plan around that, rather than, you know, things. So as that to me is a big area. Should we be more specific in terms of, and intentional in terms of specific goals we'd like to see around that area and prioritizing? I think that would be something that would be welcome among us, but also something that seems to be bubbling up from the people in a strong way. So environmental stewardship in general, and a path to an energy.
I think if you added to that list Harbor Island remediation, it's a long-term goal and it's multiple short-term goals. think if,
There's only so much we can do sometimes because we're waiting on stuff, right?
well, right, it's not gonna go fast. That's what we learned with our HDR brief a couple weeks ago. I'd like to add if you're talking about environmental stewardship, I'd like to add, urban forest management, as that's become a big issue. We have an issue with invasive species, tree diseases, and probably overgrazing that we're trying to sort out, and we don't have funding for it. So, but we have 200 acres of city-owned urban forest that we're going to lose if we don't act soon.
And to your point, we're adding complete environmental stewardship plan. Now, maybe you need this committee to feed you a report before you can prioritize that, but that would be something that's actionable in the future.
Right. We did approve a forest management
Right,
plan.
there's a
for our
plan without
acres.
funding for it.
Right.
And we have to figure out whether we are going to raise funds or prioritize it above other choices.
Infrastructure. It's why fiscal responsibility keeps kind of coming up as sort of an important thing. We're limited as to what we can do, but
Well,
I agree. I see that as we had urban forest management approval of a plan. It's not funded, but at least we all approved unanimously a plan for that. We don't have an energy plan for the city. We don't have a sustainability plan for the city. Those are gaps. We've created a commission to help us, but should we be more, maybe we need to be more prescriptive of, hey, by the end of this year, we want to have an energy plan. I don't know if that's something we all, want, but I think we want to make some steps. I should say, make steps in 2023 towards that environmental stewardship that include.
It has other pieces to it.
Yes.
Okay. A kind of a common theme that I'm hearing when you talk about wanting to identify new revenue sources and you have a number of things that need to be funded that you don't currently have the funds for. You have the pension cliff. Future generations will thank you for what you did, but current generations are going to see costs go like this until they go down. And so one tool that you could use to illustrate where you're at would be if you had a kind of a 1, 3, 5, even more year look and predict it, because you've already know what your pension's going to do roughly over time. I mean, that's all part of closing a pension plan. They give you a chart that shows you how that works. And so you should be able to then maybe start putting all these things in kind of a format of a financial forecast, which can help you know how much more revenue you need, which can help be something that can maybe help convince others as to why you need the revenue. And so I'm hearing these things. Would you like something like that on here? Develop a multi-year financial forecast?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me anyway, I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, then we'll put that on the list. What other ideas do you have?
And a plan to achieve that, I think we have to, and how we expect to
Right.
achieve the
That would
to
all
make
have,
up.
that would all have to be part of that, you
Right.
bet. Yeah. All right, what else needs to be done around here?
Something that was, you want to go? There was a lot of talk and a lot of concern about our neighborhoods. Especially our commercial neighborhoods. I think, under Ashley's leadership, we are, we're really helping, especially Centertown and the East End, in what their plans are. They're pretty cool, two pretty cool groups of people. And, they really have some good plans in place, and I think they're gonna look for us to support them, one way or another. And maybe it's just to, approve a special event or something. But I think it's something that I, brain down, that I want to, continue to see as a priority. Because both groups, and I attend their meetings, you know, they truly are gonna put plans in place on how they wanna move forward. Fortunately, I don't see that as much as the downtown. Kind of a splinter group out there, and they got the DDA and a splinter group, and, you know, they're kind of banging heads, where, you know, we've got the east kind of coalescing pretty nicely. It's something we talked about in our first.
think-
Develop comprehensive downtown development plan, would that be?
No, I think he's really talking about expand sense of neighborhood, which could be commercial, economic development, but it could also be networking throughout neighborhoods, services or businesses that, like coffee houses, that create neighborhood. I mean, on our East End, Norm's opened up and everyone came out for ice cream, and then Berserk opened up and everyone came out for a beer, and they're about to see a restaurant open up that I think is going to revolutionize just how people look at their community, and we want more of that. We want to foster more of that, but and it is kind of organic economic growth, but we want to support it. Is that fair, Kevin? Yeah.
Can I just add, I think each of those neighborhoods are distinct and unique in and of themselves. You know, as you look at Centertown versus downtown versus the East End, and what I think each of them, it's how we support development other than just downtown, because that has traditionally been 100%, a little bit more of our focus. How, with no money, do we try to foster incentives and investments in those neighborhoods to let them create and bring out what's unique in their neighborhoods? And sometimes that means various things, as Councilmember McLaughlin stated, like allowing them to have this outside party or do this because they're coming wanting to try something new in their neighborhoods, and allowing them to experiment, supporting those kind of efforts, both financially when we can, but also in other ways that council can do that.
Is what's lacking is a plan to support neighborhood development?
No, I don't think it's at a point. Maybe I could be wrong, but I don't
What's
think it's
the
at a point.
action that you're looking for here?
Well, from my.
It's a priority area.
It's a priority, and I just want to make sure that city council and the administration supports those neighborhoods. Okay. Now, if there's a plan that, I don't know if there's a plan necessary. I agree with the mayor. I just know that things are going to continue to come up in those neighborhoods that we as a council are going to be faced with to support or deny. And I think the more that we're involved, I mean, right now, Lieutenant Hudson and Fire Marshal Torkelson goes to all those meetings, and so does Dana from Public Works. Now all of a sudden we've got 3 or 4 members of the administration sitting in these meetings, finding out what they want to do a year ahead of time in some cases. We've been faced on a number of occasions where somebody comes in for a permit and all of a sudden it's a rush job and we didn't know anything about it. Now it's from the way Ashley's handling things, we're going to know long before, and I just think we have to continue to support that because they really appreciate it. You go to those meetings, they really appreciate having somebody from the city,
Well,
especially from public safety.
And from a pragmatic side, frankly, what we want to do is create a business environment in those neighborhoods where entrepreneurial efforts come in, because it will improve our tax base, which will help us pay for more, but also because it will improve the quality of life of the neighborhoods. I think, but how we do that, I'm not sure, Al. I don't know how we get there.
So you want to continue to support improved neighborhood engagement, really, right? I mean, continue to improve neighborhood engagement and support. So whatever might come of that, you're there ahead of time, you're hearing about it, you can help facilitate things, whether it involves money or not. Is that really more of what you're talking about?
Some of, you know, they want to put Christmas lights on a certain tree, or they want, crosswalks, and really easy stuff that's not going to cost anybody an awful lot of money. But it's important to them, and as the mayor says, it's going to continue to develop that neighborhood, and that's what's important. Because, those neighborhoods have frankly been forgotten for a lot of years, and now all of a sudden they're really starting to pop, because a lot of cool things are happening.
Yeah.
So.
Good. What other items do you have for the list?
Actually, Jim Hagan had brought up something that and I don't know how we handle this as a council, but I absolutely agree with him. One of the middle schools is going to be ultimately demolished, and there's like 16 acres of land there. Is that all? And I don't know this, and I should. Is that all controlled by the school board? Do they make the decision on selling it?
They sell it. Yeah.
So they sell it.
Right.
Yes.
But
So we have nothing to say about that.
no. Well, we don't have anything to say about how they sell it, whether they sell it,
Okay.
but we do have things to say about how it's developed, because the zoning will control how it's developed unless we change the zoning or approve a PD.
Okay.
So how it's developed is a whole different thing from who buys it or what's done with it. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Ashley's already, she reached out to superintendent of schools weeks ago when the news first came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be on our list, the development of that.
It is a big piece of property in a great neighborhood, and we want to protect the great neighborhood, and hopefully, frankly, get some new construction that enhances the great neighborhood.
So redevelopment of which piece?
Lakeshore Middle School property, yep.
Right.
That could be a short term. I'm not sure what's going to happen over the next year. I'm not clued in, but do they have a timeline on how they're going to move with that?
I think if I remember correctly, it was roughly 3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
if their bond
it's not an
passes.
immediate,
Yeah.
that's right, 3 years, I think.
They are planning on putting a bond proposal up this coming May, and so a lot of these plans are dependent on whether or not they actually do put forth that proposal and if it passes.
Okay.
Yeah. Ryan? Got something?
Just looking more at I'd certainly agree with the comments that have been made, and I think we've hit the big meaty ones that are all at the top of our list, but just looking at a few others that, just over the next year, we've had a lot of discussion. We haven't pulled the trigger on electric vehicle charging stations and finding ways to implement that kind of infrastructure. I think is a key thing that's achievable over the next year. This next one, I'm not sure how involved council necessarily is with it, but I think it's important that we support it. I think we've had a tremendous amount of turnover in key positions here in the city in the past year. We've lost a lot of senior level experienced staff, and so it's how do we support them, make sure that they have the resources that they need, the professional development that they need over the next year, and then that they feel valued and want to stay, and retention, because I still think we still have a competitive labor market out there too. So I think that's really top of mind for me over the next year. I know we've had some prior discussion in the past about our boards and commissions, and we have a lot of great people who are willing to step up, a lot of talent out there, but it's how do we make sure that we're tapping into those talent pools, that increasing the diversity of those talent pools. So we had young people that were in and talked earlier, and some of them are at college, but maybe there's others that we can engage more and diversify our boards and commissions, different parts of the city that folks live in. I think that's something that's doable over the next year, and go ahead.
Something that will come up, I think, during the budget session is we talked about beach parking, charging for beach parking, as a source of revenue. So it's all needs a revenue, but it's gonna, I think it's something that actually is looking at. And I think something that I think some of us believe is.
How about we put that in as evaluate paid parking?
Yeah.
Well, I think we already made a resolution on it this past year, so I think we're waiting for that report back as, but I wanted to just sort of camp onto your thing about people, whether it's our community and residents, visitors, or our staff. We did, like when we created our draft plan last year, that was before we had, we lost our HR director, we lost our finance director moved, our city manager and city clerk both, turned over. Things became really dismal here, and now we have this strong team and a strong team, and really pleased with the job that they're doing. But how do we as you said so well, how do we make them feel valued? How do we develop a retention, understand, a retention plan and a development, an ongoing development plan so that they continue to grow in the jobs that they have, and that we continue to build a base, of people who can step into their roles in years to come, or begin to, be this place that we export great talent out of. We're known for creating great, I just kind of think of how do you want to be known? We want to be known for one that develops really great, great talent and exports great talent to great opportunities, because we're a great town to do that in. So one of our residents came forward with a suggestion on that same front, that we have talented volunteers, and could we create an app, or is there an app that we could create where they could register their expertise in accounting or in, pensions. We could have used a few pensions, experts, but they were retired, or they were, they just happen to have expertise in areas. It would be great if our staff and our commissions and city council could go and look at these people in the community and tap into that talent we have living here in Grand Haven, and be able to say, hey.
They called it a talent bank, if that helps.
Talent bank, thank you. Like a talent bank, which I thought was a really great idea. And then, as you said, we don't really have a plan. I think we're seeking, we really hope to live our DEI values and have more diversity of, however you define diversity of thought, of everything, on all of our commissions, and look for that going forward. And I think the commissions continue to evolve. I think we're kind of making progress, but there's nothing like having that as a goal right in front of you to look. And we have young people who will come to city council meetings. How do you capitalize on some of those and getting them involved in the commissions and start to groom future council members from our community? So those are, I guess, under that sort of people and community thing, and I include our staff, in all of that. I feel like that's a big, in my mind, if we could codify some things for, and in that respect, it would pay dividends out into the future or a long time for Grand Haven. I put it under big people, category, but.
Yeah, you really have 2 or 3 things going on there.
Yeah.
One is attraction, development, and retention of staff. And another one is identifying talent in the community and potential volunteers, whether it be on boards and commissions, or maybe with special things you have going on that you can need some assistance with. Is that kind of the...
We just know there's people in there. They come and they're very bright people, and they have such talents, and they're willing to volunteer. But, it's like, how could we have a bank or a record of that, so that when something comes up, we could pull in some of those experts from our community who are willing to devote their time. But, when the topic comes up, we don't know who they are, or we don't remember, or we have to ask Mike Fritz, do you remember the guy who came, 3 years ago? Yeah, and then he'll usually come up with a name. But we need a better way of capturing that, and then also allowing those individuals to tell us what what they have experience in, you know, what they might be able to come and offer, so we can search, and it's actually a useful, versus just who do you know? Do you know anybody that?
I'm certainly not opposed to that, but I just want to caution that it has its own overhead, and that we already manage a wide slate of board and commission volunteers, and when you create a talent bank, you create an expectation by the person who puts his talent down on paper and sends it to you that you'll figure out a way to use him. And there's really, in terms of the size of our staff and the depth of our staff, because it's the staff that will have to use the talent, I think going broadly into that business could ruin us.
Well,
just going to tell you.
I'm just going to, you know, ask you to suspend disbelief for a moment, because there are apps, there's wedding apps where you enter all your own information, you know, like there are ways to do that, to make things that, so that it isn't something, a PDF file or a spreadsheet that staff have to keep, but there's ways of eliminating by design how you would do that if it was a priority. And we're focusing on priorities right now, but it was an idea brought up by a person. I actually think we could fund the creation of sort of a, you know, something that wasn't maintained by staff but used by staff, that's created by the people, by, you know, because we have that talent even in our community, the people that could design an app like that could, you know, put it together, and then we crowdsource it. We just ask people, hey, if you would like to volunteer, put, you know, here, go to this app, enter your name, contact information, and select the skill set area that, you know. So anyway, I'm just saying it might not be as you think, a paper kind of, you know, or anything that these guys would have to create.
What other items do you have for the list?
Evaluate the future Chinook Pier.
Chinook Pier, evaluate future of Chinook, CHINOOK, Pier.
I think we have to take a look at that. Last year we had food trucks that turned out to be not and I just think that could be. We had an RFP and it was very restrictive. We didn't get. I'd like to see what the development community would say about what they could do on that piece of property.
Chinooks with a C.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's
no,
absolutely.
it's a C, yeah.
It's a kind of a salmon. CH. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. That all works. It's phonetic. You did good.
I just think that's something that we're going to have to take a look at.
Sure. Other ideas? What are some of the things you need to get done?
I mean, we need to continue regular city services, street sweeping, snow plowing, you know, all of the, each year it seems like they dwindle. Our streets are swept less, I think our plow guys do a great job. But I mean, it's really about keeping the lights on and keeping, with a small crew, keeping the work done. So I don't know how you put that.
Is that a financial issue, though? Because that's what I was going to say.
It
it's a
is
budgetary,
to a great extent, and it's also been a labor.
Don't want to do it.
It's been a labor shortage as well. But deliver essential city services is to me is the
maintain what we have. Yeah.
We need to maintain services.
Maintain core service levels. Yeah.
So we can get that way. And that goes back to finances. But I have to say, Ryan, I've been trying to get charging stations here for how long now? and I bring it up every year for probably the last 3-4 years, every time I come up at this planning period, we need, I thank you for bringing it up there.
Darn it, let's get it done this year though, Mike.
I really think that's the thing that we need to really push, because the simple fact is, I've been talking to a lot of restaurant owners and that, they have people that call up, and the first thing they ask, one thing they ask, if you have a charging station in town, and you don't have one, they'll bypass you. Look out there, the future is in electric, whether you like it or not. It's generating cars. Look at all the manufacturers that are on the bandwagon now. We don't have nothing here. That is one of the priorities that we need to stress. If we don't put it in, we should help the restaurants and help other individuals. We should get out there and have them put some in here. Reach out to the BLP, and maybe they can figure out something to help us there with it, or something that we're to get charging stations, because it will attract people here. It really does.
There were, Mike, Pat was working on it, and there were some, we may have lost it, but there were some
I thought we were gonna
plans
have
to.
4, yeah.
Okay, hang on one second, Karen, please. There were some plans to install charging stations at a couple of the municipal parking lots. I mean, just a few slots, but.
I know at one time they wanted to put them in the prime spot, where they was, but now it doesn't matter. We need to have them here.
But there was a service that did it, free of charge to the city, I think, or with some potential, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a done deal. Do you know, remember anything?
Yeah, I do
May
not
have gotten
know-
dropped
I
in.
don't know where Pat left off with
It's
that, but I
okay.
know Derek has a number of locations identified, and we've worked with individuals on the Sustainability Commission to connect with state contacts for funding opportunities. So.
But going back to infrastructure and environmental thing is, we have a problem on the north end when anytime you get high water and that our neighborhoods get flooded, and that goes together with infrastructure and environment. We need to look at 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan on how we're going to take care of high water. And we're under the gun when it came to water. High water came, and we did the best we could, but we need to have a plan to go forward on that, because it's going to come back. Really, like that, high water is going to come back again. Grand Rapids is talking about putting the rapids, and they take away the dams. What's going to happen is you're going to have more influx of water coming down. That's going to change the direction of flow of the water. So you get prepared.
Yeah, I think that speaks to some of the, like our last master plan update, we did a lot of resiliency planning and work, and we didn't.
Right.
We implemented some of it, but a lot of it we didn't. So we actually, this past year, a subcommittee went through and have worked on an updated master plan, and I think the Planning Commission is soon going to take that back up, probably kick it to us to kick out to everybody. So I think that's probably a goal for next year, to kind of maybe get that updated master plan across the finish line with, certainly, which will still have a focus and an eye on some resiliency planning and keeping those long-term impacts in mind, because they're very real. Yeah.
I think we have to do a better job with this, of just keeping our citizens aware of our issues. You don't listen to the radio, you don't read the Tribune, you don't know what's going on in this community. We try to do it on Facebook as best we can, but I know when I walk the neighborhoods during the election, there's people that didn't know what was going on with Harbor Island, and I'm like,
Mhm.
Are you kidding me? That was a huge issue back last August. No idea what was going on. So I'm not sure how we address that, but I think there's a lot of people in this community that just aren't aware of what we're facing. I don't know how we.
Do you have a communication plan at this time for different forms of media and that type of thing, or?
No.
So develop communication plan would be an action item.
We don't have a news station that covers anything.
What else do you want to get done around here?
I think as development occurs, obviously affordable housing is on the shortages. And we just don't have a lot of available land in this community to be able to address that. But there's, middle school at one time, down the road could be a possibility. There's other land. But it's something that I think we have to take into account without forcing developers to do it.
So,
It hasn't worked in the past.
improve affordable housing. And I think Grand Haven has done a few innovative projects there. I know when I was at Ottawa, the land bank worked with the city and got a couple good.
You're lucky you got out of Ottawa.
I've been told that quite a bit today, actually.
We
Lost it anyway.
Probably not.
we have in the past, Al, done some innovative projects, but we run up again against fiscal choices because to the extent that you try to use city resources to underwrite affordable housing, you are making trades against other forms of services or improvements. So
Mayor, you're right.
we're really a small community, and Robinson Landing, I think, was a really good stretch goal. But I don't know that we have the resources to do much more of that, given what we're facing otherwise. And I listen to every developer come in and assure council they'll put some affordable housing in, and it never comes, and it's not going to come unless there's really some restrictions that come along with the project. So I look at that and you can color me skeptical again, I guess. We have had several different developers come in and promise affordable housing, take concessions, and not deliver affordable or attainable housing even, but certainly take their concessions. So really, the question is to what extent we can engage in that kind of engineering, social engineering for the city. I mean, the Lakeshore Middle School property is going to be sold by the school district, and I'm sure they're going to want to get every penny they can out of it. And I don't blame them because it goes to our schools. So, so if that's the case and a developer purchases it, if he builds within the existing zoning, he's met his obligation. Anyway.
I think that obviously, as you know, you can't use general fund money or general property tax dollars to support housing at all, because it would give an individual benefit to individuals, which you can't do with that money. But certainly there's programs at the state level, and then also Housing Next in Ottawa County basically met with every single housing developer and looked at what is the gap between being able to develop affordable housing versus market housing, and then bringing partners in, whether it's nonprofits, whether it's state, to close that gap. And I had understood that a couple of those projects were done in Grand Haven or are being done in Grand Haven.
That was our Robinson Landing project.
Robinson Landing?
Yep.
Okay.
And
all right.
They did a great job. But
so it's almost more of a coordination helping rather than giving city money to something, right?
Right. It can be, still working regionally with fellow municipalities around here on a greater strategic, plan or direction on that as well. And the state legislature, I think, just recently put in, they're seeing the need to maybe incentivize things at the state level as well, and so they're offering some development incentives to some degree, and so it's all top of mind for everybody. But I think it's a regional issue too, and I think we have a part in it, even if we're not building the lowest end of the attainable. There's still units that are needed at all price points to make it work. So. I think we've had presentations on that and discussions on that. But I think to that greater point about regional partnerships, I think historically the city's done a really good job of partnering with the county, but also our regional partners in Northwest Ottawa County, and I think it's really important to keep that top of mind and continue those relationships. And maybe even at the elected level, we have greater responsibility to work on some of those relationships. I mean, my understanding is many years ago, there used to be like a mayor's group, or maybe some council members would get together with, Ferrysburg and Spring Lake and Spring Lake Township or Grand Haven Township. Maybe there's some opportunities to just build relationships. That can't hurt, right? So.
We had building relationships, build that in with businesses too. We need to reach back out to our businesses that are here, long-term ones that are here, even the new ones, and that, as a council ourselves, that's a thing we should do, is reach out to them also, besides just elected officials and stuff.
Yeah, we started some of that work. We said we're going to do kind of a tour every couple months or every few months, because there's a lot of us that are new, and some businesses are doing a lot of different things, and technology's changed. So the more we can continue that or get back into that practice of every 2 months or 3 months, I think that's really good, Mike. Yeah.
I'm sorry, put on there increase outreach to business community? Is that what we're talking about?
It would be nice to have a CEO roundtable, frankly.
That'd be great. I think I recommended it one time. Yeah. Is that we sit down with the owners and stuff like that and see what their needs are and see what we can do to help them. If there's anything we can do up to the state or local,
maybe just support
or whatever we should help them with. Use our power of being able to sit here to reach out to our legislators and stuff.
That would be tough.
Could we turn the bench around and prop it up underneath? No, here we go.
But I think that's something that would be good if we could get that together. I think it would be really good to get those CEOs around the table. And I agree. I don't think it's really not any financial help.
The legs come
down. Just to understand
what their needs are. Yeah, we need to reach out to them.
Individual, I agree, I think the individual tours are nice, but it'd be nice to get all the power in one room. I mean, the last time I saw it was at the BLP presentation back last August, when 10 of those CEOs sitting around. That was a pretty powerful group.
I had just had one comment on we had developed communications plan. I was just looking at one of the things we said last year, kind of like, and maybe you're assuming this into it, but I don't want to assume anything. So I think one of our goals was to assess how well city communications are meeting the information needs of the community, which included one of the primaries, our website and everything else. And then on that IT front, we also, getting back to our people and our staff, they are doing a lot of things. My observation is old technology or using, having to track things in ways that isn't necessarily optimizing technology, which increases the amount of work that they have to do, makes it very labor intensive. It would be good for us if we made it the priority and had some money, is to look at optimizing the use of the technology in the city to fully leverage the knowledge and expertise of our employees while reducing cybersecurity risks and improving the service to our citizens. So I say that because I think there's one that's on the communication front that's sometimes over Facebook or over the website that has a technology component to it in terms of user friendliness and ease, but there's also this city staff use of technology in the systems that we have, and I think they're all sort of aged and cobbled together, and they're optimizing what we have, but it's not super efficient for them, and so I think of that as also something that we could. Yeah, it could be a technology plan that assesses, not just the city users, but how well it does what you need it to do, but also sort of the usability from a communication standpoint to our constituents.
And I'd like to kind of tag on that and say, almost every event we've tried to hold where there's a large group, we have insufficient public address capabilities. So if we're going to do a technology plan, I'd really like to have better opportunity. I'd like to be able to hold a council meeting in the larger rooms in the community center if we need to, and be able to live stream it. I mean, I'd like to be able to go to an event where you speak into a microphone and it works. And we have not managed to do that in any real sense. And I know it's the equipment, I know it's the system. It's because it's certainly not the people, but we got to figure out how to improve that, because the HDR presentation was a perfect example where the mics didn't work, and we got a lot of talent there to brief the community, and the mics didn't work. So that's not good. and it's not the community center. It's not the council chambers. It's like we have bad aura, and every time someone picks up a microphone, it fails. So I'd really like to see that improved. I mean, as part of a communication strategy, as part of a technology plan, both.
Sure, that makes sense. I think the way I think of a communication strategy is looking at all forms of media and ways that you reach out to the public. So traditional media, radio, TV, newspaper, but also social media. Many governments have gone to one product is Gov Delivery, where people can opt into memberships or opt into receiving information in different areas from the community. Last I knew, I think Ottawa had 160,000 people had decided to sign up for over 400,000 subscriptions. Kent, I think we're up to 92,000 have opted to get. So it's another way of giving people an opportunity to get information from you. And those are the ones who, it's push and pull, right? So in many ways you push out information, but how do you know it's catching unless you do periodic surveying and figure out which forms of the media you're using are the most effective. But if people are opting and asking for it, then that's a really good indication because they're pulling the information from you. But so those are some of the common strategies I've seen in the communication plan side of it. And you're right. I mean, when you look at your systems inside your facilities, as far as the ability to have meetings and broadcasts and be heard, and that could really fall under technology or communications. It's really part of both.
Could I just amend could you just amend the technology plan? Plan means something, I would say technology assessment and plan, because there's a part that's a plan on what you're going to do. There's a whole assessment that needs to take place, and so I don't want to oversimplify what needs to be done.
Because you're really talking about doing a gap analysis.
Exactly.
And without knowing what you need,
right,
it's hard to know what to do, which is kind of where I was going with that whole forecasting, financial forecasting. If you don't know what you need, it's hard to...
Any road will take you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, the weekly report that goes out to the community, how many people have subscribed to that? Do you have any idea?
I believe the latest we were up to around 400, a little over 400. Yeah.
Did you send it out through Brent? Do you
No.
know? It might be worth sending out through Brent, just because I think he's got 1,000 people, and if you get another, even if half of those are on it, half of them aren't, it might be a...
Sent it out, but we may ask him to send it out again.
Right, just to ask him, anybody who's interested in signing up, here's how you do it. I mean, that would be a useful...
It doesn't really work either all the time, and it would be beneficial to have that newsletter on a Facebook site, because I have trouble with my email and I can't get it.
Can't get it to open?
Reprofile, and I can't get it, I can't get it, I can't get it.
I stay away from Facebook.
Well, the website is probably, you can get on the website and look, I guess, but is it posted?
We could publish it
Yeah,
in multiple formats.
These are really hard questions because, I have a friend who shall remain nameless who one day looked at me and said, really, there's only 40 people in town who are paying any attention to what's going on. And some days, that is a great comfort to me. But most days, it is a great frustration. So you just kind of go, really? But you're right, Kevin. You can, people will say, well, what do you mean Harbor Island? And you just kind of go, there's things going on. So, but you can only push so much. I think that's what Al was saying. You can push so much, but it is also about, is the technology the right way to get it out? Because we just had the emergency chief of public safety just sent us a text actually that said, if you want to be on emergency updates, text me back. And we sent that out widely. And I think so. There are mechanisms, and that's automated somehow through some, I think, state-funded system. So that our DPS got on, and I think that was useful. And anybody who's out there who hears, call public safety, and if you want to get on it, because when that wasn't a polar vortex, it was a something cyclone came in.
A bomb
A
cyclone
bomb
is what it was
cyclone. When the bomb cyclone came in,
I'm not sure it
I was
really
being
did.
texted by public safety saying, heavy weather ahead. So it worked. I thought that was kind of cool. All right, what else, guys? It doesn't seem like a very big list, but
there's substantial things on it, and
there are.
To me, this process is about coming to an agreement on how you're going to move the dial. And if you made substantial improvement on a number of these things within the next year, then it's worth it, the way I'm looking at it. It isn't necessarily the quantity as much as it is the quality of what you're able to move the dial on.
They are. I'm not knocking the list. I think everything on there is got validity, and I just I feel like there's more and we're missing it. Anybody got anything else?
How about, we don't have a lot from the airport, but obviously it's something that, I don't know if we pay enough attention to it. I think it's a great community. They serve a great need in the community. Some people very much support the airport, and other people don't support it at all. And I just think it's something that we should just keep on the radar. I don't know how you put that in there, but the airport is important to a lot of people in this community. Something that we want to make sure that we either decide to support it or not support it.
So how about evaluate the airport's future?
Yeah.
Would that be? Mike, got something?
Evaluate the future, but I don't know about evaluate the future of it anymore, to be honest with you. We've done that route already, we've got plans and everything else that came to us. Right, we keep an eye on it, what we need to do, but I don't know, we put down,
Frankly, the airport would prefer to be off the radar most of the time, I think, the airport community, because they fear expansion into their space.
There's more to it than just the pilots that are here. There's also a lot of industry that comes in and out of here, if you like it or not. They fly stuff out of here. A lot of our businesses do. They have an imported income that way. It's a lot easier for them to get here than have something trucked or overthink. They can have a private plane come in and bring what they need right away to get their businesses going. I've talked with other business owners and stuff like that. It's not just local pilots and planes flying in and out of here. It's also our industry. You got to make sure they get some emergency drops here that comes in right in that way. They make deliveries and come out and pick it up and go. So it's more than that than just pilots. You want to be under the radar.
industry, if you talk, when you talk to our industry, you're gonna find out they use our airport a lot more than what you think.
Well, some do, but some want to expand into one of the runways.
Well, yes, because they're
and-
right there.
Yeah, right, and, yeah, it's an interesting, but the airport is going to need major investment that, for hangars, that they're not going to be able to come up with, and it's not gonna be, funded by the feds. So, those hangars are falling apart, and, if you're not gonna rebuild them, if we had a decision in this board that we're, council, which of course, new elections, new members, new ideas, you can't really commit to, but I think there are some people who would commit the money to build the hangars if they were allowed to use them over an extended period of time.
I think privately they would.
Yeah, I think that's,
There
yeah.
was interest by industry itself to build a large one, so they also wanted to expand the east-west airstrip a little longer so they could bring in a bigger plane. They wanted to have it here. Some of our local industries
So,
have some.
so to me, maybe evaluate airport future is a fair way to just at least get a discussion going about what does council see happening. Mike, you don't.
Well, I mean, from the hangar standpoint, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think the mayor's right, is that, I think there's some of those hangars that just gotta go.
Yeah.
You know?
Future investment, maybe. or
And
whatever.
I think the private sector would be, if we would allow them to do it, I think the private sector would come in and build those hangars.
But they would need a term commitment
Oh, absolutely.
that we might make as city council here, but whether, and I guess if we contracted for it for 10 years,
Yeah.
it's a
If they could-
possibility.
If they could recoup their investment, you know.
Yeah.
and it's something
What
that-
about the options, if I can break in, like with Muskegon County, it's a huge, I think anytime we look at something, we need to look at the options instead of just saying.
Okay, you're right, Jim. We got that. And it's an interesting question because all of them could fly out of Muskegon, and it's not far away. And is there better use that could be made of that land? I mean, those are the questions, especially in a tight fiscal environment. So, but then there's the the 30 years we commit to every time we sign an agreement to take federal money, we commit to a 30-year, to keeping that thing going for 30 years. So it's not easy. Yeah. Or maybe it's 20 years, I'm not sure, yeah.
But it continues to go with every.
Yeah.
Well, it does, but I think that's what Mike is getting. He's been through more reviews than I have on it, and I've been in some since I've been here. That those evaluations have occurred, and I think we do have new members, and that's fair. But I think that
Been there, done that, is that what I'm hearing?
well, we end up in the same spot because we have
Yeah.
these exact same
Right.
discussions, and yep.
Okay.
But
We'll
then,
leave
at
it
the end
on
of
there,
the
but
day,
that might
Yeah.
not come to the top of the list.
at the end of the day, though, then you have hangars that continue to,
Yeah.
fall apart, and yeah, our runways are great, but everything else around it's falling apart. I guess that does speak to something else that we haven't talked about as much, but we've talked about before is like, finding every way that we can to make sure that our enterprise funds are more profitable or doing better than maybe what they have in the past. We've done a lot of work, I think, at the community center this past year to make that more, or I don't think any of us expect it to be profitable, but at least lose less. But our marina, our airport, sounds like it's been more so breaking even with the fuel sales. But how do we make sure that we're doing as much as we can to
Optimize
our enterprise funds,
revenue.
yeah.
Does the airport have a capital improvement plan?
So
Yeah.
they do,
Yeah.
they do, and they have some big items coming up. Actually, so it probably is fair that we, because actually I think, there's a pretty big investment that they have in the list.
Well, for runways and safety equipment and aviation equipment, but for other things like the hangars are really, I think, probably the biggest hang up, so to speak.
That might go on as a separate item then.
Hangers?
Yeah.
You could, yeah, and you can put slash hangers, and I think we'll, yeah, slash hangers is fine.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. Yeah, that's.
Ashley, you got anything you think we should be putting on here?
That's enough work for me, thank you.
I know Karen's combing the list we've already developed, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm going to push something in and give you a few more minutes to collect your thoughts. The other thing I have, since we seem to be diving deep into hangars, I'm just going to throw this out here under the environment. One of the other things we had come up with was engaging citizens in a way to educate and change behavior towards more sustainable living practices. So it was kind of under our environmental stewardship. And were we doing everything that we can from a city perspective in terms of what we provide our citizens regarding utilities, et cetera? Educate and help change citizen behavior towards more sustainable living practices, again, under the whole broader stewardship. And we didn't define, we just said that would indeed be a good idea based on a lot of, citizen input. We didn't define the whole scope of all that, like what all areas it would cover, but it was...
Yeah, I think some of the discussion was, the group that was kind of really asking us to look at some community energy planning, a lot of that fell under there. And then I think we also had some aspirations to kind of see where we ranked on the My Green communities
I think there
initiatives.
there was talk about recycling potential too.
Recycling.
Yeah, like increasing the recycling contract.
Yeah, conservation during, summer peak month, what.
I think
those
what
things,
you
all
got
those-
is good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, one other thing that Pat had brought up, probably over a year ago, was looking at the sale of excess city vacant land as a revenue source. So and I think that's something that I know Ashley's looking at, but I think it's something that could bring in some short-term revenue that can help us get over some of these humps, because there is some land out there that I didn't know we owned. And Mike does. He's my boss. But it'd be good to take a look at that, because some of those were shown to city council before my time, but they were shown to city council. I just think we should follow up with that. Nothing more value with them, I'm sure we're all going to agree, but I think we should at least bring it out as a discussion point to let the public know there's revenue out there. It's really up to us to decide if we want to take advantage of it.
Just been kind of following along with your SWAT. You hit a lot of items on last year's SWAT, so that's good. How about, you had identified a weak historic preservation, historic district ordinance. Is that
I was
something?
going to bring that up. I mean, the pro is sitting over here when it comes to historic preservation. Karen does an awful lot of that, but, we do have very weak historic commission rules and regulations. I mean, they really have no teeth. And some of the things that have been developed in the downtown, I think it's probably doesn't meet the quality of what I'm looking for anyways. And I think that's something that would be good to be able to strengthen. Karen and I have had this discussion. They really don't have, there's a commission, but they really don't have a lot of teeth to it. And I think it's something that should be looked at. It's up to them if they want to do it, to be very honest with you. But I think if we want to preserve the look of our downtown and some of our historic areas, I think it has to have more teeth than it has right now. Because right now they don't have any. Some of the things that I don't think it's in the character. I think that's something that should be looked at. That's up to that commission.
I think it goes with, in support of what we heard people wanted when we were doing all of this, is they wanted to preserve the unique character of our town And that was one of the reasons why they wanted to slow some of the development that was going on, because it seemed to be overdeveloping. And then as we started to peel the onion back, we're probably not as strong as we could be in that area of historic preservation, and some of that might be public education of sort of the historical gems that we have, maybe capturing or digitizing how things, used to look, but have it in a way that we can see that this is how those old homes used to look. So before you, level it, let's, look and appreciate some of those things. I don't know, maybe we just haven't explored all the ways that, but it seems to be a value of the community to preserve some of the unique character of what we have and appreciate that. And I think I would love to see us make progress on that. I don't know, I feel like our Historic District Commission's hands are tied to the ordinance as it was written because it departed from the state statute. So long and short of it, it's a very, very weak ordinance. So I don't know how we empower them, further, or what steps we could take to help. But I wouldn't mind doing some brainstorming on that with, with who, our council, on how we might do some things to try to help better promote that.
So
that
brainstorm
outcome.
possible improvements to the ordinance could be.
Or to help, actually more to help with the preservation, the historical valuing and, preservation of our neighborhoods and homes.
It's an interesting question because there's a range of approaches to this. And I mean, I've lived in a variety of places that have very strict, back east, that have very strict historic, you have to get approval from a city office to replace windows in your house, and you can only replace them with wooden windows, and you can only paint certain historic colors, and many of our several, I won't say of our historic neighborhoods are working class neighborhoods that if you start telling people if you start limiting what they're able to do, most of the choices that they'd be allowed to do are more expensive. And so there's really, it really is a challenge to figure out how to encourage people to preserve the historic character of buildings without necessarily mandating it. And I don't know how to get to the balance of that, to tell you the truth, in this town where I think that people with money can do it. And I think people that don't have that kind of money may not be able to do it. And I would not like to tell those people they couldn't make improvements to their home. Would I like to say they can't knock it down? I probably would like to say that, because I think what's happening in most cases is and it hasn't happened a lot, but it's going, I think, over time to happen enough that it will bother everyone, is they're going to knock down small, older homes and put up out-of-scale, bigger homes. And I would like to figure out, and some of that is historic preservation, and some of it is scale of the neighborhood. And yes, some of it's straight zoning.
But that you bring up an excellent point, because I agree with you, and I think the reason why the ordinance is weak is for the very reason you stated. This community was trying to find some balance between perhaps unaffordable, some way of oversight. So we have a Historic District Commission that has very little power other than over city-owned, pretty much city-owned properties. But they have an advisory kind of, and
they're doing a good job with it.
They could do more of a, we could insist on, if we wanted to, or for historic properties, we can insist on them getting an advisory review by the Historic District Commission or some other kind of thing as a part of there are things that we could do, but I totally agree with you. It's a balance, and what we're trying to do is, but the thing that people fear also is that scale issue, and that is a kind of a zoning and plan, we can try to help manage that, but we don't have those protections in place today, and I just think we have to get creative of how do we find that balance, but put some more protections in place for the neighborhoods so that we don't change that character that it does seem to be valued.
I think that's a good way to leave it, and I think we have to figure out how we approach that as a group.
I just think personally that some of the facades that have been put on downtown just don't fit the character of the downtown. And I think that's something that we have to look at if we want to preserve the character of our downtown. I think some don't fit. And that's all from me personally, but I think that's why that's important. At least have the discussion on it.
So it might not just be, is it historical, Kevin?
Yeah.
Or is it also style? Both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, but if we left historical, it's really to try to get the style to suit.
I mean, when McDonald's wants to go into, a real cool downtown, they conform to what you want.
Yeah.
Or they don't go in. And if they want to come in bad enough, they're going to conform. And not that we want a McDonald's downtown, but I'm just giving you an example.
Thank you. Okay. What else? Anybody? Ryan, you got anything down there? No, just generally. Karen, anything more?
No, I was just doing a quick, seeing what other things we talked about but didn't make any progress on. Let me scan real quick.
When we built the Ottawa County Courthouse, I think it was about 1.7 million extra, because we intentionally wanted to fit in with the central business district.
And that was a great thing. And
Yeah.
then you moved the courts out to Fillmore. What's up with that?
Well, not really. I mean, the main circuit court's here, the district court is here. Probate was moved out in the 80s.
Yeah.
And might actually move back as they complete the juvenile.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh, wait,
or
no.
the family court.
To Fillmore.
To Fillmore.
Yeah.
Well, no, the probate court could end up in downtown Grand Haven again.
Well, that would be
That
good.
discussion was happening, but I don't know where they landed.
If he does, yeah. Okay.
Good luck.
But yes, the courthouse is beautiful. It would have been nice if it faced the park. I'm just going to say that courthouses face the square, but it is a beautiful building, and we're lucky to have it. So, anybody else? No. Maria, you got anything?
I don't know if this would belong on our strategic plan, but there have been lots of legal changes to election law that are going to incur a great amount of expense on the city's part, and we're going to have to look at future investments in equipment and
election security. I think that's a great thing to put in there.
That's a huge thing in there.
So plan for funding changes in election law, or implementing changes in election law.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have no choice. We have to do it.
Right.
we don't have a choice.
Funding.
And then there's also some services that the county currently does for us just because that's what happens. And maybe we might want to take some of those back in the future, depending on how
We'll
things
see how
go.
that goes. Yeah.
God, you're planning already. Didn't take you long.
Okay. Now what do we do, Alan?
Good?
Yeah.
Wait,
Well,
have we heard from Ashley yet? Ashley?
Well, I asked.
I'll
Did
just
you have
quickly
anything
add.
else? Pardon?
I'll quickly add just a
Okay,
couple.
good.
Along the election lines, I know Maria and I have talked a lot about planning for, and Councilmember Lowe as well, as far as election education and possible voter turnout, events, strategies, something a little newer to us that we'd like to implement going forward. And then I had also just jotted down a couple things that I didn't necessarily hear come out that I had on my list, and that was also to support Harbor Transit plans to connect Muskegon to Holland. I think that transportation strategy is important for us to be at the table for.
I agree. Put that in there, probably 2-3 years, and that just started a little bit, so
Absolutely. I think we kind of touched on some of our revenue optimization, but deficit elimination plans for some of those funds, including our cemetery and marina and community center. I think the only other one I had noted on my real priority list is evaluating a funding strategy for a 7th Street streetscape plan.
I think that's a great one, and that goes right into what Kevin was saying, honestly. 7th Street is center town, and it's one of the areas they're trying to develop, so.
Yeah. In coordination with the MDOT
Yeah.
Boulevard plans as well.
And,
I think, well, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, no.
No, I think the whole election,
Yeah.
I know
Seventh
myself and
Street.
Karen faced it
Funding strategy.
last year that
Seventh Street improvement.
we got sworn in, and, you know, we were notified that we were supposed to fill out some form with the county. And she ran down. I said, oh, I'm gonna give it a day, but that we, basically was a misdemeanor if you don't file that.
It was after we were sworn in here, then they notified us, and so we were all kind of like, "Ooh, it's a little out of, order," so we run down, and they were like, it's okay, everybody in Holland did the same thing. And so, because
But
of
it's
our
just
meeting,
important that, you know-
it's had to do with our charter, and our charter required us to do it the Monday following the election, but they didn't certify the election until, so they didn't send out the notifications to all of us until well after any time that, it was after Monday
It was
night.
just,
Yeah. It was
you know,
after we were already sworn in, we get a notification that before you're sworn in, you should fill out this,
Yeah.
So we went and did all that.
It's
But-
important information.
But we weren't the only ones, because both Holland and us had it in our charter that we followed our charter, and that's how we got, so we've got to sync up those kind of weird things so we don't do it again this year.
It should just be the instructions. It just helps a new candidate. I know.
Or we
Mayor knows,
should
but-
make sure we notify people that if they get elected, even if they don't get notified of the election, they need to go down and do that, or whatever they need to do to.
You don't want to get in trouble with those guys.
Well, and some of that brings up another sort of topic too, which is something that we've talked along with our boards and commissions, but just in general, doing onboarding. So for boards and commissions and even city council, that would look at things like going over Open Meetings Act rules and laws, going over Robert's rules, going over
Orientation
Yes.
manual, and,
Mhm.
yes, I think that's great. Yep.
That was a recommendation.
We just did ours with our 8 new commissioners a couple weeks ago, so a 4-hour session. Published a book for it. You're welcome to look at that if that would be helpful.
Might be very
We'll send it
useful.
to Ashley. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
We're good. All right. Then if we could, Ashley, as I recall, you have a conference room with a big table. We probably could utilize that to quickly create sheets by category and then get them on the wall and rank. So I think we can do that in about 15 minutes.
So we should stay here?
Yes.
Take a 15-minute
Okay,
break?
you got it.
15-minute break.
Break for
us?
15 minutes.
Okay.
Scott,
Or you're doing
can
like,
you?
or,
Yeah.
or-
Well, Ashley, if we could go in the conference.
Okay.
All right.
No.
Just an example.
show, so if you wanna put them around.
You could put them,
Do we want to put these in the order there on the thing?
Could you want to tape them to the front of
lay them
this?
on the table.
And we
probably
can
read 'em.
walk around, we can go and look at them?
How's the camera gonna see them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
If
gotta
they're-
show the camera.
Can't
Okay.
they just move the camera
know.
to it? I mean, in front of, hanging
How about
down
on
in
the-
front
How
of,
about in front of Ashley and Maria? Not in front of, below.
It'll be a little awkward if you have to get down to the floor.
All right, you guys figure it out.
You know what,
Figure it
how
out.
many do we have?
Hey, Scott, where do you want them at?
Yeah, what's better for you?
If he hangs them up somewhere, can you focus in on them?
We also need a,
what do we have to do?
Rank,
so they have
rank
all
these
7
things.
of them to rank.
We'll do it in about 5
We
minutes.
have one category we have nothing.
We're all pretty good at this.
Or we could do it by email.
We have a sheet with a timer. Let's
Just
slide
offering
them
that.
off in order. So let's see if we can just start along that wall. Yeah, I think that'll work best. Okay, so first is excellence in government.
Can you do that, Scott? Is that okay over there?
I can try to shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, and
You can read them to us.
We could place them on the conference table. You guys can stand up and mark them.
Oh, you can, that's okay with you?
That's
well,
fine.
they'll hang over the edge too. I'm just thinking for the ranking exercise you're gonna do,
Go ahead.
you'll wanna just see it in front of you.
Yep.
And not have to crawl on the floor. Okay, environmental is next on the sheet. Yeah, we'll just stick it there.
Put your binoculars up there and tell me what they say.
I will.
I think you might have to move over to the wall for that one.
Oh, it wouldn't stick? It wouldn't stick well?
No, not to the window.
Oopsie.
Yeah, let's do the second call of the audience now, so we can move right over.
Nasty.
Actually, stick on pretty good.
We'll need to make 2. Recreational, cultural, learning, and one for health and safety as well. All right, we're very close to ranking now.
We talked about people, wait for the work session, they'll be lining up, all getting moved.
Oh, you wanna get a picture so you can read it?
Yep. I might have to go do that, you guys. Sorry. I'm not gonna be able to read another one.
No, I know.
Oh, wait, those should be spells we can't kill. Because they're not part of those, they're separate categories, but.
That's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're good, we'll.
All right, okay, yeah, this is a great community center kind of activity, we got.
Yeah, it is. That's what
lots of wall
that's what
space
you gotta
and
do.
All that kind of thing, but, all right.
All right.
So, what we're gonna do you have 7 categories. We took the items that you identified and we fit them underneath the 7 categories. Actually 5 of the 7, because you didn't have any for 1 or 2 of them. So under excellence in government, develop multi-year financial forecasts, support professional development of staff to improve retention, create a talent bank, complete infrastructure inventory, complete financial plan for infrastructure and prioritize spending, find new alternative sources of revenue, identify pathways to work holistically with the BLP, maintain delivery of essential services, technology plan and assessment, improve tech in all facilities for public meetings, maximize potential of enterprise funds, evaluate airport future/hangars, look at sale of excess city land, future election law changes and investment, election education and strategy, onboarding/orientation for boards and commissions, 7th Street funding strategy. Under environmental stewardship, sustainability practices and education, implement EV charging stations, environmental stewardship plan, energy and sustainability plan, secure funds for environmental/sustainability plans, Harbor Island remediation, urban forest management, plan to remediate North End high water, community and neighborhood livability, neighborhood engagement and support, improvement of that is the idea. Help with historical preservation, support harbor transit plans, redevelopment of middle school. Increase engagement with the business community, evaluate the future of Chinook Pier, improve affordable housing, all under economic development and affordability. And then a separate category, you didn't really have any that fit under there, recreation, culture, and learning. And then you had health and safety for all. Again, there wasn't any items that fit most naturally under there. So engaged, informed, and connected community, had developed communication and resident engagement plan, assess how well communications are meeting the needs of residents, diversify boards and commissions, enhance regional partnerships. So, what I'd like you to do first, the 5 of you, would be to...
Oh, the old sticker trick.
The old sticker trick, by golly. All right. This one came off here, that's not good. And this is really just so you can keep track of 1 sticker per area when we do this, so we don't ever have you put 2 stickers on 1 line. So the first is ranking the 7 categories. So I'm giving you each a smaller set of stickers. And the idea here is that we're playing baseball and not golf. And so it's the highest score wins. And so what you'll want to do is put a 7 on the category that to you is the most important.
You mean the...
Above the line only.
Okay.
So if to you...
You mean this year, this year, given what we're saying, which is the most important?
Your plan of attack for the next year, what's most important to get done? And so if you think it's environmental stewardship, then put a 7 on that one. High score wins.
Oh.
If your second highest priority is economic development and affordability, put a 6 on that one, all the way down to a 1. It doesn't mean that something you give a 1 isn't important. It means its relative importance for the next year is less than one that you gave a higher number. All these things are important or they wouldn't be in your plan, right?
Yep.
And so it's all finding the relevant so that Ashley can put together a plan, bring it back to you for approval, and then what we would suggest is a format that assigns duties and responsibilities, could be staff, could be council, and with deadlines, and that way this thing becomes alive, and you just keep knocking things off instead of coming back in a year and wondering what you got done. So I mean, I think that's the value of a process that operationalizes strategic planning. All right, so when you're ready, go ahead.
Nobody's 1 to 7, huh?
Or 7 to 1, depending how you want to look at it.
7 to 1?
Baseball.
Well, if it's my team, it's 7 to 1.
There are only 5 categories, so...
No, there are others.
7 categories.
Oh,
we don't care about the one.
They just
Double
don't
done.
have anything listed right
Due to a
now.
lack of wall space, so along the line you have 7. How's it going?
Okay, and 7's the most important?
Most important, and 6 is your next important.
sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No,
What
you're
did you get
fine,
anyway?
Kevin. I'm probably going in the wrong direction.
It is a decision.
But apparently not. Okay, thank you. Good.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Kevin's head in this one, so, yeah, there we go. Kevin's deep thoughts over here.
Well, you know,
It's not a test or a game.
No, we're not strategic in that regard.
So far, we've all followed directions. We didn't use the H.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. You win as a team.
yeah, I know.
All right.
He's so competitive.
It's the team. Well, Schembeck one of those competitors. I mean,
Yeah, I was doing more competitive the other night. God,
I know it was awful.
God. And how do you take the top defense in the country and give up 51? It's like, wow.
Right. Yeah.
It's
And
unbelievable.
then, I hate the outcome being that touchdown, but it's really a touchdown.
It was a touchdown.
I can't cry about that.
I don't get to be green again.
You want to be green again?
I
you
like
can
to be
green
consistent,
again.
and I don't
Okay,
question
all
my
right.
actions.
Because we don't do this to figure out who did what, it's more to make sure you
That's
don't
okay.
trip up.
Yeah.
Do you want your color? What
It
color?
doesn't matter to me, yeah. I mean,
And you
I'll
said-
take any color.
What'd you have?
Red.
All right, we'll give you red. What'd you have?
I had orange, but my name's McNally. It's a bad omen, I'm just gonna tell you.
All right, okay, so now, this is different. You have a total of,
24.
is that?
No, no,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
24.
He's counting how many we
Oh,
are up there.
never mind.
yeah.
Okay, 39 or 40, somewhere in there. So this time, how many you got on there, 24? Okay, this time go ahead and take 13. And put a 13, forget that there's categories at all. Now you're looking at just one big list of issues.
Okay.
And so put a 13 on the one that you think is the top individual issue. Remember I mentioned how in South Haven, public safety was the big category and sidewalks were the issue? This is where we'll kind of break out what some of those most important individual items are, so.
13 to 1, I just want.
13 to 1, you bet. So 13 goes on your top important issue or item, and 12 on your second. They were helping you get your steps in on a meeting day. Oh, these are yours, I don't want to walk up. Chase down the PD as I hit the outskirts of town, you know?
Here we go.
Trip over some cords.
Does it matter if we put more than one on, so I don't care, you don't care what the categories are? So we-
Right, no, we're not caring about categories, please just.
Whatever number 13 is your best one, and then.
Right, so just one sticker per item though, yeah. Yeah, that, I mean, that's pretty gutsy. We did that in Ottawa back, 2000, well, I guess the last group was 2015.
charging stations, Mike. You do.
You can't attract people.
You're right, I'm not arguing with you.
Getting stale.
I'm just reading.
Okay.
Reading too.
How much you're all crossed out and stuff, aren't
Excuse
they?
me.
Yeah. Oh, they had like a 17 before, so they crossed.
Oh, they got a little line in there.
Yeah, see, that's different, yeah.
Oh. If I put this way, maybe I should put that way. Are you getting
Then they would have been right.
Make them look at it differently. That'll really screw way all up, won't it?
Yeah, he said, what the hell? That's all right, you gotta keep on his toes too.
Who's yellow?
I am.
Is that a 6 or a 9? Are you trying to get credit for a 9 and a 6?
One's like mine, you
It's,
did that for you.
it's sideways, I'm just wondering.
I'm sorry.
No, it's right. I
I'm
know
sure
it's
he'll
a 9.
figure it out.
It's 2 big points.
Let him do it. Just take one of those. This is live,
I'm gonna.
It's horrible. I cringe every time someone puts up a microphone. And honestly, I've never been in any culture where it was better. The Coast Guard never got it right either.
Yeah.
It's just, this stuff's expensive. You don't use it all that often. And, but every time I look at it, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Way too many of these, man.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Decisions.
All right. Gotta do them all, let's just be honest.
1 year, let's go.
But that's
all about, man. I forgot all about that one. We didn't have any program when I first got here. And I said, no, we gotta have it. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, they either did investment.
Noted.
Another 3-year plan. Just go, but no, that's what you're gonna do. You can focus your board.
Here all day.
Figure out which one. That helped. All open meetings, so.
It's different out there.
All the snow,
Making a priority to ensure that we maintain the current state. We don't let it go any less than what it is.
That's her job is
It is her main job, that's why I'm saying, like.
That's
so
why it's a
I prioritize,
13.
well, I know, but you're
I got what
saying we
you're
have to
saying.
run the city, but I'm
Right.
thinking, we can't let it go any.
The problem is if you start prioritizing other things, you can't let that go.
Who had orange?
That would be me.
Okay, you have 2 oranges up on community and neighborhood livability. One needs to go down on the one right in front of you, the recreation culture, because there's a red on that, yeah. See how the heading up there, the header, has 2 oranges? Well,
I
finish
do
what.
see that, but I don't remember which was which. Do you know which is which?
I know that there's one not lacking an
You
orange.
have a 3, so it can't be that one, so it must be the 6.
Okay, but that goes above the header down here.
I don't understand, Al, just a second.
Okay, once you get that off, I'll show you. I should have waited till you were done, actually.
Okay, what you got?
Okay, so you need one right here. So there's 5 stickers on that. So you just have 2.
Oh, I see.
No, that's okay. I just
Certainly
wanted
not,
to
certainly
catch it
not.
so we get you accurate results, so.
Just like, oh boy.
Oh, I got 2 more to go, man.
Oh, no, there's a lot.
Oh, man.
I did my best. It's sort of a gun ducking kind of exercise, but as best I could. It is interesting to see that we don't all agree on the priorities. I think we all agree these are all good things.
Yeah.
But where we put our emphasis, we may not agree.
That's why they hire private.
I guess so. It's like a jury. Deliberative body. How's your job going, Ryan? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Is it getting easier?
I think I have like the flow of things is easier. Like I understand kind of like getting from point A to point Z on a lot of things, not everything, because there's like today that this is going to be a new one, you know. But
You like the people?
no, very good people, all just very talented, smart, intelligent. They don't all agree, right? Here we are, and they're very passionate. And a lot of them are close to Chicago, and have no problem saying what And you hear it, and you hear.
Did I mention I'm from Chicago?
All right, see, you know then, yeah. So it's really interesting, and they have some really challenging zoning issues, like not unlike here, but here's some other issues. They're running out of space. Developers are getting very creative with their interpretation of things. Water development, what's
Yeah, really pretty water.
best and ideal for the community and stuff. Yep. So.
We could honestly use a little bit of that Saugatuck, Chicago money up here, just a little bit, not a ton.
Yeah.
But there's like all the foodie restaurants that come up here too.
I agree with you. I think we're due for updates and refresh.
I have to tell you, I think we've been due for a while. Hasn't materialized.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're just on over 5 hours. I'm just like losing.
Hope you guys got
And all up.
Do we have to still read them?
Yeah.
He has to.
Oh, he has to. Oh, that's not good. Oh, so he's totaling them. This makes sense.
I think we can see the results later. I don't really need to wait around and see it. While they're tallying, can we go to the second call of the audience and, or do we need a?
I don't have an
We need
objection
to have
that.
a read back of this?
Does anyone have an objection to that? Al, we're gonna
done all our-
conduct the
we've
near
done all
end of
the
the
work
meeting,
there.
if that's okay with you. Yep.
We can. Are you still recording all this, Scott, or
Okay.
watching us walk around and?
This is the second call to the audience this evening. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We will take all callers.
There's no calls?
Are you disappointed?
No, I just thought do we have to do council reports and city?
We can do council reports.
I just wondered if we wanted to go through that rather than
Okay.
now.
Ashley's gonna,
Guys-
or Maria's gonna have to take minutes. We're gonna move on to city council reports. I'm gonna start with Karen.
I've got nothing to report, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Ryan?
I'm good as well.
Okay. Kevin?
I am good as well, thank you.
Mike?
I'll make it real easy. We had a great New Year's. I want to say thank you to Ashley and everybody that was down and put everything down there. It was fantastic. A lot of people there, so that's what I want to say. And baseball hasn't started yet, so nothing about Tigers, and just hope that Hamlin's doing better today. Yeah,
Nice.
terrible accident last night, so
Terrible.
pray to God he comes
yeah.
good.
This is the
The
football player who
had
got a
cardiac
chest compression and cardiac arrest on the field.
Yes.
That was pretty grim. Is
That's
that it, Mike?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
make it this quick.
I have, I would say the ball drop was fun. I missed the countdown, and I talked to Jeremy about it today, and he said the mic quit. So I kind of went, oh, well, all right. But the fireworks were great, and the work that the staff did to deal with that was excellent. I really wanted to commend two groups, actually. Our Public Works crew that did incredible plowing, that kept the city moving during the bomb cyclone. I thought a polar vortex was bad, and then the bomb cyclone showed up. And I'll tell you what, between the winds and the temperatures, it was horrific working conditions. And both public safety and public works did an incredible job keeping us safe and warm. And I'd also like to thank the Board of Light and Power, because across the nation, there were power outages in these kinds of circumstances with cold temperatures and high winds. And whatever's gone on, our Board of Light and Power has built its distribution system in a way that has kept us safe and our lights on. So I just, especially in these winters when the temps are challenging, the winds are challenging, the working conditions are challenging, those guys are all out there working for us, and I just want to say I appreciate it.
City manager report?
Ashley, you need a mic. City manager report.
Can't see you over there.
Ashley, get back there, come on.
Or here.
Scott's in charge.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott is in charge. Okay. I don't have anything necessarily to add, but for the sake of buying some time, I'll just echo the mayor's sentiment about all of the departments that worked so hard through not only the storm, but the holidays and spent time away from their families, making that sacrifice so we are all enjoying our warm, safe homes at that point in time. So just echo that sentiment.
Thank you, Ashley.
Clerk report?
Last night, and he goes, all the concerts you've been to, what is the best concert you ever went to? All of them. She goes, but the one I remember the most was Pink Floyd. When it was Pink Floyd, down at the Rosemont. And she says, of course, Bob Seger. She never missed a Bob Seger concert. I mean, she says, next one on the list would be Bruce Springsteen. And down seeing him at Soldier Field, and he still comes out into the group, and he had a little stand, he's singing up there, and he just falls back in the crowd, and people are just going, you can see the look on their eyes, like he's going, I got Bruce. I mean, all the way up to the front.
That's pretty cool. Did you see the interview with Springsteen and Howard Stern? Oh, it's great interview.
Isn't it good?
Oh, it's a wonderful.
It's really good.
Great interview. Great interview. I've never a Howard Stern fan. Come around a little bit. It's great.
Hungry? I go.
Yeah, where are you gonna go?
Farmer's pizza he had.
Oh.
He had delivered.
Yeah.
You like that? Maintain delivery. Big Sky beer from Montana.
Okay.
Big Sky Brewery.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Check all the breweries now.
I think that's probably a break point, 27.
Okay.
It's like 21.
Oh, like that. Oh, how was that?
Up in the UP.
Oh, okay. Must
Way
be.
up there.
Oh, God. I think that's.
30 minutes.
You guys waiting for us now?
We are. We're
You
ready
are?
when
All right.
you,
All
whenever
right.
you're ready, Al.
Okay, now go get it.
Yeah, drum roll, please. Okay. So as far as categories go, excellence in government was number one, and you gave that a score of 34. And second, you had environment, and that came in at 30. And then third at 23 was community and neighborhood living. And then fourth was economic development and affordability, which came in at 20. And then it drops off a fair amount from there. When you look at the individual items, you had develop, find alternative sources of revenue, scored a 43, so that was significantly your highest one. But then following at 37 was Harbor Island remediation. And then after that, you had complete a financial plan and priority for infrastructure spending, and that came in at 32. And then at 30, you had energy and sustainability plan. And then maintain delivery of essential services came in at 27. And then it drops down to 20. So part of doing this is you may end up doing something that wasn't even ranked high because it's low-hanging fruit, or you get a grant that you didn't count on, or so this isn't intended to be some carved in stone sort of thing. But you have very clearly kind of outlined what your priorities are, where would you would like to see the dial move most. And so I think that if Ashley can bring you back a plan that kind of is a plan of attack that focuses on those items and what she can do within a year with the resources she has or resources that you could provide her. Maybe something, you know, if you want to identify or study your sound system, you hire somebody for a couple thousand to come in and look at your equipment. I don't know, but identify those gaps and put together a plan. So it could be what she can do with staff or what she can do with other resources you can provide. Those would be the things you'd want to see come up to try to knock off the list over the next year. And then if you do this again in a year, either with us or you can do it, we can train you guys what to do it, or you can use someone else. I think that's important because you see the things come off the list, you add more things, you prioritize again, and this becomes operationalized instead of an event-based thing, which I think is really important for organizations to be viable. I mean, you're always working on these things. Do you have questions or comments or on the results or on the process or things you think we could have done better or anything like that? We'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Don't you, I mean, especially in excellence in government, I think we all, you know, focused on a lot of those things. You know, we talk about revenue, but, you know, if you're going to talk about revenue, you really have to put together that multi-year plan. You know, I mean, some of the stuff really, in my mind anyways, goes together. It's kind of tough to separate them, and I hope that Ashley, you know, takes a look at that, because just because it may get a lower ranking doesn't mean that it shouldn't fit into the overall strategy. That's all I'm.
Yeah, I mean, develop a multi-year financial forecast. It got 17, so that isn't terribly low, but that's a good point. These things work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And in order to develop new revenue sources, that is really important. And to the extent it can help you out of current tight times, then it's kind of more of a Band-Aid. But to really look down the road and say, all right, we're going to have to pay more for that pension until it finally goes off the cliff, and we want to attack that infrastructure plan. We really need some more communications equipment so we can have public meetings in our different facilities. So it's a matter really then of developing that plan, that financial forecast, so you know, hey, you know, we need to do this so we can do this, instead of we want to do this so we have more money, right? I mean, so you need the yin and the yang of the thing in order to explain why you want to. Anytime local government raises money, you aren't going to get people standing up and cheering for you. No. Right? They're not going to be happy, and that's just how it works. But if you have a plan and you say, look, then you're going to win people, and that's when you can build some momentum, you know, to get some of these things off the list. So.
Because we're facing, you know, Ashley and Emily has come to us with a possibility of raising 2 mills to help with the pension system, especially with public safety. And, you know, I didn't come here to raise taxes. I don't think any of us did. So, you know, any way that we can increase revenue so that at least in my mind, I can go to the taxpayers and say, okay, we may have to raise it, but this is what we've done to help this out. And I think that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Exactly, and I think part of it is showing what will be lost for you to, you're making an investment in this city's future by what you did with the pension. And someday, there will be a substantial financial benefit to the city for you doing that, but it's out there a ways.
Yeah.
You want to maintain the quality of services. If you put more and more money into pension retirement, you have less and less money to maintain those services where you want them. That's the cost to the residents. So I think at some point they need to know that, you know, we got to get over this hump. I used to call it the rat and the snake. You know, when you close a pension fund, you've got that big bulge that goes through, and then ultimately it's gone.
Yeah.
And so, number one, what can you do to improve things? And number two, what do you need to maintain things? Those are the cost of what you do as far as whether you fund that pension. Because that pension was built up over a long time, and it would make sense that as you pay it down over time, that the future residents have a hand in paying that off too. It's a cost of the city over time, and not one that I don't think most people would intend would reduce the quality of their city experience.
Right.
I'll jump in. I want to thank you because I think this was a very healthy process for us to go in, and I think one of the things that struck me is how actually how much agreement there was on some of these key actions, and that's a really great message to send to our staff that actually there's some agreement. I think everything that's been captured here, though, is something that I hope, Ashley, that you'll take everything, including sort of some of our weightings, because there's only so much that you can do in this facilitated process, and you did an excellent job. But some of the things aren't mutually exclusive; they overlap, right? And they can be grouped together, and become even more of a priority for us. Because I struggled between a couple different things, and I'm like, I think we're basically saying the same thing. So I hope that all of this isn't lost. And again, great. Thank you for helping us with this and getting us to this point, because I'm pleased to see that there's so much agreement among our council on so many important things that we face.
Well, to your point, if you were to complete the infrastructure inventory with complete the financial plan and prioritize spending, all of a sudden that's the winner.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and actually we do have forms you're welcome to use, take them, use them, that kind of slot this. But we'll provide a report and a matrix of all this. You're welcome to take pictures before we take pictures and pull it off the wall. So.
Great. Thank
I
you
just
so
want
much.
to say thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al.
I really appreciate a lot you coming here and helping us out with this and that, so
Yeah.
it worked out very good.
Thank you so much.
And Stephanie.
And Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Thank you
Yes.
both.
Yes.
Destiny, sorry.
Yeah, keep Al in line, please.
Yeah, please. Somebody has to.
Thank you so much, Al.
Really appreciate it. All right, does anybody got anything further?
No.
Meeting's adjourned.
Hey, congratulations on your award at MML too. I was trying to catch up.
Yep.